Good evening. I'm Councillor Shamila Sivaraja, and I would like to welcome you to the full council meeting. There are no planned fire drills tonight. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the main spiral staircase and through the main reception doors. Once outside, please turn left and make your way to the fire assembly point. This is located beyond the multi-storey car park on Exchange Road. If you're unable to use the stairs, please wait in the council chamber and you will be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. This meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel. Please note that there is no comments function available as part of this webcast. The council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during this webcast. This will be done in accordance with the council's published data retention policy. Those sitting in the public gallery should be aware that by entering the chamber, they are consenting to the image being captured by the automated camera system. Recordings will be used for webcasting and/or training purposes. Cameras are currently set to capture member in the seated position, so please remain seated when speaking. Councillors have received an electronic copy of the relevant paperwork for this meeting. The public agenda for this meeting is available on the council's website. We will now start the agenda. Are there any apologies for absence?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you. Councillors' interests notified in advance of the meeting are set out from page 5 in the supplementary agenda order paper. Are there any further interest councillors wish to declare? No? Okay. There are 2 sets of full council minutes before you for approval. The first set is from the meeting of the full council held on 17th July 2025, which appear on page 5 to 22 in your agenda. Are they agreed? Agreed. Thank you. The second set of minutes are from the meeting of the extraordinary full council held on 24th September 2025, as detailed on pages 23 to 28 of your agenda. Are they agreed? Agreed. Thank you. I will now provide you with the mayoral update. Last month, I had the honour of cutting the ribbon to mark 42 years of the Metro bus service in Crawley, a moment that felt both historic and personal. From its early days connecting neighbourhoods to today's modern fleet, Metro has evolved into more than just transport. It's been a companion to our daily lives, a bridge between communities, and a symbol of progress. In September, I had the honour of attending and speaking at Unity, Crawley Together, a vibrant celebration of our town's diversity held in Memorial Gardens. The event brought together residents, performers, and community leaders in a joyful display of culture, music, and shared values. It was a proud moment to stand alongside colleagues and reaffirm our commitment to inclusion, respect, and unity. Crawley's strength lies in its people, and Unity was a powerful reminder of what we can achieve when we come together. I was pleased to attend the opening of the newly expanded Little Store in Three Bridges, a welcome development for local shoppers and the wider community. It was a joy to mark this milestone and support a business that continues to invest in Crawley's growth and convenience. I was honoured to attend the recent Judges Service in West Sussex, a solemn and dignified occasion honouring the vital role of our justice system. The service reflected the deep commitment of our judges, magistrates, and legal professionals to fairness, integrity, and service to the community. It was a privilege to stand alongside civic and legal leaders in appreciation of their work. I was delighted to attend the K2 Winter Warmer event, a vibrant gathering that brought warmth, wellness, and community spirit under one roof. From energizing activities to heartfelt conversations, the event showcased Crawley's commitment to inclusion, well-being, and seasonal support. My thanks to the organizers, volunteers, and participants who made it such a welcoming success. I had attended numerous events, and there are many more that I haven't mentioned yet. I'm looking forward to the upcoming events in the future. We will now move into Cabinet members' announcement with a 10-minute time limit. As you can see on page 9 of the order paper, there are 4 announcements. I will take them in the published order, starting with the Leader of the Council. Councillor Jones, please introduce your communication item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my pleasure to announce that Bewbush has been selected as one of the government's 339 communities to receive an additional £5 billion investment from the Pride in Place Fund. This means that Bewbush will receive £2 million per year for the next 10 years. Over the next few months, we will be establishing a local neighbourhood board which will have a chair independent from the council and government so that we can ensure that the investment will go specifically for grassroots community initiatives. The funding prospectus is due to be published in the coming weeks, which will give us clear information on the scope and practical elements of how this funding can be utilised. Funding will be available from April 2026 and an expectation that the neighbourhood panels are established by summer 2026. I look forward to receiving the suggestions from the strong communities that we have in Bewbush and working with them so that we can allocate this significant investment appropriately. We're proud of what we continue to deliver for our neighbourhoods here at Crawley Borough Council. Madam Mayor, this council puts delivering for our communities at the heart of our priorities. We continually demonstrate that we deliver on our investment schemes, whether that involves improving local infrastructure, supporting our town centre, or improving our industrial heartland in Manor Royal. This will be no exception. Speaking as leader of the council, but also a member of the council representing Bewbush and Broadfield North, this is outstanding news, and Bewbush's gain will be a win for the whole of Crawley. I look forward to working with our communities in Bewbush to deliver this significant investment and further improving the neighbourhood. Madam Mayor, I know as a Bewbush Ward colleague, and you and the Deputy Mayor will be delighted as I am and is eager to explore what we can do. It was a huge pleasure to go down to Dawston Square last week and meet some of the groups and start having some of those conversations. Obviously nothing's decided yet, but all tremendously exciting. And as I said, good news for Crawley. Thank you. The second announcement I have relates to water neutrality. I'm delighted to inform members that the government has reached a decision to withdraw water neutrality restrictions that were first introduced in September 2021 at the end of this month. These restrictions significantly impacted on development in the town, notably housing. It was a notable factor within our decision to declare a housing emergency in February 2024. Crawley Borough Council has been at the forefront of work to find ways that allow developments to come forward, including being the first ever authority to have its local plan adopted with a water neutrality policy and the first local authority to develop water credits through retrofitting council housing stock, something that has also reduced bills for our tenants. We also lobbied government strongly and often led on the way as a council. This resulted in the issue being considered by the cross-departmental task force looking at water issues, which brought together the key players needed to resolve the issue. The agreed actions include a cap on the amount of water taken from the affected area and other environmental measures to ensure the important habitats are protected. I'm thankful to both Ministers Hardy and Pennycook, who've provided the leadership needed to resolve this. Not by 2040, but by 2025. We needed this flexibility in our planning system to allow our communities and local economy to grow in the best interests of Crawley people. After years of delay to planning applications, we understand that many applicants will be keen to now progress these as soon as possible. This will take some time to work through, and we thank applicants for their patience in advance as we process what will be a significant amount of work for our planners. We hope that any frustration at delay will be more than compensated for by the fact that applications will now be easier to determine without the need for water neutrality restrictions and the associated costs moving forward. Perhaps, Madam Mayor, at long last, it might mean Taco Bell can finally open too, and they will have justice. We will see.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Next, we have Councillor Irvine, the Cabinet Member for Housing. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For us, my announcement is not news, but as it hasn't gone onto the public record, I'm announcing it tonight. Well, I don't think it's gone on the public record. I'm delighted to report to full council that following the Regulator of Social Housing inspection earlier this year, we've been awarded a C2 grade, which is the second highest we could achieve. This means that while the regulator is assured overall that Crawley Homes is meeting the regulatory standards, there are some areas where further work is required. In noting that the Council had effective policies and strategies, the inspectors highlighted the good work the Council was undertaking with partners to help tackle antisocial behaviour and hate incidents. They also noted that the Council dealt with complaints fairly, effectively and promptly, and that the Council was already working to address the areas highlighted for improvement. These include clearer reporting, tailoring services for residents' needs, and improving performance against service targets. I'm now working with officers to put in place a plan to address the areas which where the Council can further improve its service to tenants. And having said that, looking forward, we're pleased with the outcome, but we're certainly not complacent. I'd like to put on record, actually, Madam Mayor, my thanks to Amanda Kendall, the head of Crawley Homes, for the way in which she led her team to a satisfactory result and the work she did behind the scenes to make sure we were ready for the inspection. And I'd also like to thank my fellow councillors Michael Jones and Yasmin Khan for their support in our own councillor session with the regulator, where we were asked some at times very tough questions. So I think we must have answered them okay. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Finally, we have Councillor Chris Mullins, Cabinet Member for Leisure and Wellbeing. Please introduce your communication item.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I've got this, show you this poster. It should have come through on your emails, and it's to celebrate the 20 years of K2, a place that we as Crawley residents and actually residents' ownership of K2 should be very proud, and something to be proud to talk about. But the open day is to celebrate the 20 years from 10 till 4 on Sunday, the 20th of November. And it's interesting to note the sort of things like the attendances and what we've achieved. We sort of put £4.4 million from K2 in social value into the society of Crawley. We have something like 23 million visits there so far. So it's quite incredible. We've just spent £2.5 million enhancing and bringing in new gym equipment, the latest technology in gym exercise, which gym people want. And it's of a very, very high standard. We've plenty of room now to walk around and have space, and something that people will be really happy to go and enjoy. On the day, everyone active sporting champion in attendance will be everyone active sporting champion. I've got to get the name right. I've been trying to rehearse this. It's not easy, so bear with me. He's Harry Aitkins dash Arite, I think it says. But if I've got that wrong, Harry, I apologise. But he is actually a superstar, and he's on Strictly Come Dancing, and he's an Olympic gladiator, and quite a really nice guy apparently. And he'll be joining us for the VIP reception, where there'll be refreshments, a guided tour of the facilities, club showcase, with our long-standing K2 partners, speeches. I wonder who's going to be speaking, and the unveiling of a commemorative 20th anniversary plaque. There will also be time to view the newly installed K2 timeline on the first floor, celebrating iconic moments like TV superstars Sir Steve Redgrave, Daley Thompson. And I've got to say that on 2 dates I visited recently, on Saturday the 4th of October, I went to the World Karate Championships. It was quite incredible. There were competitors who were all over the world there, and I could not believe the attendance was absolutely enormous. And we had a wonderful occasion. It was really good. And on Thursday the 16th of October, we had our winter warmer, which was all of the stalls showing about health and Chris is on the second. Did I say the 20th? Oh, the event is on the 2nd, yeah. Did I say the 20th? Yeah. Withdraw that, it's the 2nd. Right, it says the 2nd on the post. Oh, it's got 20th birthday, but it's on the 2nd, yeah? On the 2nd, did everybody get that? Right, that's good.
Okay.
So, and I think I've got to stop because I'm running out of time, but anyway, look, we would like as many council members to come as possible. It is important that we recognise as elected representatives that this is our centre.
Can we thank
the centre
you,
we
Councillor?
built. We built that centre, and it's
Councillor
ours.
Chris Mullins.
And we're
Thank
going
you
to
very
keep
much.
it.
Right. On to the final element of the communication. I'm delighted to be able to make 2 long service badges presentations. I will now walk to the front of dais and ask the monitoring officer to invite each of the councillors up into turn to receive their badges.
First, can I invite Councillor Jaggard up to the dais to receive her 10-year badge? Now can I invite Councillor Jones up to the dais to receive his 15-year badge?
We will now move to item 6, public question time, which is set for 30 minutes. There aren't any public here, so there is no public question time. We'll move on to the other item. I don't need to read this one. A second. I don't need to read this one. Just a bit.
I would read that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Consideration of full council recommendation and call-in decisions. We will now deal with agenda item 7, consideration of full council recommendation and call-in decisions. There are 7 recommendations for discussion this evening, and the first comes from the Cabinet meeting held on 3rd September 2025. Recommendation 1, financial return 2024-2025, quarter 4, starts on page 76. Councillor Jones, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To quickly summarise what was discussed on this item at OSC and Cabinet, which seems a long time ago now, Members have been aware that robust budget management and careful reserve management was necessary during 24-25 to keep above the £3 million recommended minimum balance recommended by the Council. The outturn for 24-25 is significantly favourable, 1.432 million against the original budget. General cost pressures, including expenditure on homelessness, temporary accommodation, continue to increase during the year. The commercial property sector is also facing challenges which resulted in an adverse outturn in this area. The Council has continued to benefit from increased investment income, which together with careful reserve management enabled a contribution of £367,000 to be made to the general fund balance. But what is being requested tonight is that Appendix F is the schedule of reserves detailing each reserve and ins and outs for 24-25. So effectively, we're agreeing the use of reserves for the year, which we need to do for the accounts and audit. And the additional capital programme is a good news item as we've had additional funding from the government for the Disabled Facilities Grant. So this is to agree the additional budget so we can use it. As this will help people with grant-aided practical modifications to their homes, I very much hope it will not be considered controversial to do this. Thank you.
Councillor Chris Mullins, I believe you are seconding the recommendation?
Yes, Mayor. Can I reserve my right and I'll come back before the end of the debate?
I will now open up the debate to the floor. Okay. As we do not have any speakers, Councillor Chris Mullins.
Oh, thank you. That was quick. It gives me pleasure to do this because it's a good news story and it shows, generally speaking, that we are going forward with excellent financial management on this council. I'm particularly pleased to see some of the funding for the play areas and stuff like that we're doing, necessary work that needs to be done for safety reasons and for provision for our children in Crawley, and I think this is very important. So I think in all, Mayor, I don't need to labour the seconding because nobody's causing the debate, but I'm just pleased to see that we got the funding for capital facilities. That's very, very important, and hopefully our TA costs this year will be better than last year as well. So I'm pleased the investments are making a good return, and with that, Mayor, I'll stop and just simply second recommendation 1.
Thank you, Councillor Chris Mullins. There are no further speakers. Councillor Jones, please formally move the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally move.
Thank you. Is that agreed, or would you like a vote on it? Agreed. Thank you. The next 4 recommendations are from the Cabinet meeting held on 8 October 2025. Recommendation 2 is the Budget Strategy 2026-2027, 2027-2028, starting on page 118. Councillor Jones, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We discussed the budget strategy at the meetings contained in the minutes, and the report for the budget strategy covers the period for 26-27 to 27-28, and it doesn't go any further because the Crawley Borough Council has been abolished on the 1st of April 2028 as a result of local government reorganisation. The strategy addresses high levels of uncertainty in government funding due to the Fair Funding Review 2.0, inflation and rising service demands, especially homelessness. Whilst the report is based on the latest information and best estimates, budget forecasting is by its very nature volatile and subject to change. The outturn for 24-25, as was mentioned, was favourable due to robust budget and reserve management. And the 25-26 budget was also favourable, allowing a budgeted contribution to reserves of £88,000. However, as reported in Q1, we think we're going to have an overspend of £326,000 by the end of the year. At least that's what we're reporting at the moment. So, given all the pressures, we begin from a solid position due to the huge amount of work that was done on the budget last year. That can't be understated, and that has undoubtedly allowed us to approach what needs to be done this year from a better point. However, the assumptions on funding, as I alluded to, have been challenging to forecast. The government announced its intentions to inform local authority funding from 26-27 onwards, whilst providing increased certainty through a 3-year settlement. The reforms will impact both the funding distributed according to need through a relative needs formula and funding received through the business rate retention scheme. Early indications show the council will gain from the relative needs formulae. However, the level of funding that the council will receive will not be known until the settlement in December 2025. To try and assess the funding allocation expected, the council works with the 2 leading advisors in local government funding, Pixel and LG Futures. However, as some members will remember, the forecasts from both differ quite wildly. Therefore, we identified a third methodology that's also been modelled with what we're calling a cash flat scenario. Now, of the funding scenarios, the 3 methodologies used to forecast, Pixel Finance predicted a surplus of £711,000 in 26-27. LG Futures predicted a deficit of £3.5 million. The other methodology, which sort of broadly assumed that nothing changed, predicts a deficit of about 2.5 million. It should also be noted that there is some uncertainty over Home Office new burdens funding of in or around £2 million, which poses another significant risk across all the scenarios. Officers and myself, I can assure members, have been working to try and get clarity on this for some time, but until now with no success. I'll be as upfront and transparent as I can. Borrowing is likely given the size of the programme that we have, but must be avoided where possible due to revenue implications on our capital programme. But nevertheless, we intend to develop saving plans in this interim period. It is not prudent for the Council to wait for the announcement of the provisional settlement in mid-December to start planning for any base budget savings. The short time horizon dictated by local government reorganisation as well sadly limits long-term saving initiatives and therefore the saving strategy. It's therefore recommended to continue with a phased approach to closing any potential budget gap by identifying up to £1.5 million worth of savings for the 26-27 budget based on the cash flat budget scenario, and to balance the budget through the planned use of reserves if that is what is required. I would dearly love, for example, the Pixel Finance projections to be proved absolutely correct, but we cannot be sure for now. As leader of this council, I've always kept a firm hand on spending and affordability, and that will continue. And we will take proportionate measures to ensure that as much as possible, the council remains solvent, but also prioritises our communities and their services. Later, we'll be discussing the corporate plan, where we'll be speaking more about what that will look like. I will listen to questions and comments from members, Madam Mayor, but I submit that this is a strong and prudent strategy for the challenges which may lie ahead with our budget, and we will do everything as a Cabinet that we can to ensure we continue to keep this Council's finances on an even keel. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hilton, I believe you're seconding the recommendation.
I am. I would like to reserve my right to speak until later. Thank you very much.
I will now open up the debate to the floor. Councillor Crowe.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I spoke at the Cabinet meeting about this, and I summed it up there in just 4 words. We just don't know. And never has there been such uncertainty in budget forecasting as what we see before us tonight. The leader mentioned the 2 methodologies that that the council have used to forecast what the budget deficit or potential surplus could be. And it's just worth exploring the so-called fairer funding just that little bit more. Crawley Borough could potentially benefit by, I think it was 700,000 is the Pixel projection, but the County Council is going to lose £30 million over 2 years. That's what they're projecting with Pixel, and that will become our problem or half our problem, depending on what we end up with in terms of our new unitary authority. So in the long term, Crawley is going to suffer because of the so-called fairer funding. We will be supporting the budget strategy. It's important that we have something in place for our final 2 years. But I do perhaps wonder if we are having our expectations managed somewhat, and then if the pixel projections do turn out to be correct, then actually savings do not have to be made. We may actually end up with some growth bids potentially. Pixel is the consultancy, or whatever you want to call them, who are being used across the districts and boroughs and the county council across West Sussex. We are a bit of an outlier by using LG futures, and certainly what they're predicting is hugely different from Pixel. At the Cabinet meeting, I referenced the budgeted inflation rate for pay, which is at 3%, and we're not the only authority that is budgeting for 3%, I should add. But today, we've had the inflation figures come out, and they are 3.8% for a third successive month. Now, for the year that we're already in, the unions took a sub-inflation pay offer. They accepted it. Now, I would be very surprised if the unions accept a sub-inflation pay offer for the second year of a Labour government. I'd be very surprised indeed. And there are no signs of inflation really coming down anytime soon. So I do think we need to be looking quite carefully at that 3% figure that is budgeted for, because I would be surprised if what we eventually get in the settlement, and that is of course out of our control, ends up being at 3%. I'm trying to think what else I was about to reference, but you know, we heard the term a firm hand, and well, I'm not quite sure where that is applied, but certainly historically it hasn't always been on our finances, to say the least, and we could still end up with making some difficult choices. So I support the element of being somewhat prudent in case we do have to make some difficult decisions. I note that there's nothing put into the public domain. That there often seems to be a reticence to put potential savings out into the public domain before they may or may not have to be taken. But I do wonder, and I hope I'm right. I hope the pixel projection for Crawley Borough at least is correct. Elsewhere, it'll be pretty devastating. But here, hopefully, if that is correct, then we will be in a slightly better position. I have also mentioned the new burdens funding, and it was not the last cabinet meeting. I think it was the one before that where I referenced it, and I think the leader was quite adamant that we were very likely to see progress soon. So while we haven't seen that progress, I welcome the fact that it is very much on his radar, and we are seeking to gain that funding. And of course, we've also got other uncertainties around the letting of the new town hall, and hopefully we will have some good news in the not too distant future. But it does feel over the longer term that we have somewhat stalled in terms of letting out spaces, and whether that's a wider reflection of the economy and how businesses are struggling, particularly with the national insurance raise under the last budget, and of course the national budget. And don't forget, of course, the national insurance rise did have an impact on this council as well. We weren't fully compensated for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I note that Councillor Jones, the leader, I think referred to having an ambitious capital programme, which is all well and good, but there are certain complexities associated with that. I mean, one of them is, of course, the emergence of a new unitary authority from April 2028, which would inherit part of that capital programme, and we need to factor that in. But another point is this, that the financial outturn report for fourth quarter 2024 to 2025 showed a 25% slippage in the capital programme. Now, the leader also mentioned the possibility of having to borrow to support an ambitious capital programme, but I would suggest that the worst of all worlds is to have a capital programme which slips by 25%, but which you have fully borrowed for, because you borrowed for something that you're not delivering. So how is the leader going to ensure that any borrowing is sensible and set against the possibility of slippage in the capital programme that we have seen historically?
Thank you. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to be seconding recommendation 2 for the budget strategy 26-27 to 27-28, which is in itself quite unusual for a 2-year, as we've explained today. I think section 7.4 of the Cabinet report which went to Cabinet on the 8th of October, it's kind of said it all, really. It talks about an environment of high level of uncertainty. And it mentioned quite a few things which we've already been mentioned tonight. The fair funding review, the Home Office new burdens funding, the pay award, business rates, interest and investment income, housing benefits. So with all that, and I haven't even mentioned local government reorganisation, it is a very unsettling thing and we have to wait until December until the local government finance settlement comes in. However, it's not all bad news. Hopefully, we're anticipating the fair funding review does include a relative needs formula and a formula for temporary accommodation, which is obviously still an ongoing challenge. And hopefully fair funding for districts, and we're not talking about the county councils tonight, districts and boroughs haven't fared that well over the last 14, 15 years. So I think if they reflect some of the particular needs, all being good. And also, we are maintaining a reserve of £3 million in the general fund. And it was particularly heartening in terms of the outturn, which we talked about earlier, that there's a reserve of 3.93, which is particularly favourable to what was expected first of all. I noticed Councillor Lanza mentions borrowing. I don't think we've actually mentioned and thought about borrowing to the kind of degree he's thought about. And I think we all know there is a cost of borrowing. And I think in terms of capital, we are very aware of our responsibilities to the wider taxpayer and being prudent in our approach. So therefore, I particularly like to commend the flexible use of our capital receipts strategy, or in other words, invest to save, which in some really key areas, including temporary accommodation, may reduce the pressure on the general fund, which will be sorely needed. However, it's a difficult time in terms of uncertainty. Such a big variant in the two modelling tools, the Pixel and the LG Futures. It's only right we've taken a cautious approach to the budget strategy by including our own cash flat assumption model. It's sensible to be prudent. Fingers crossed, it's good to be cautious, and fingers crossed the settlement will be okay for us. Although, when we talk about previous settlements for Caldwell Council, there's a lot to make up. Considering the reduction in local government grant to Crawley Borough from the central government between 2011 and 2012 was reduced by 43%. That is the result of austerity, and that's what we've got to make up, and that's a hard thing. But as a seconder, I would also wish to put my record of thanks to the officers for putting together this report and these figures in pretty unprecedented times, because in this period of uncertainty, caution and prudence have been the watchwords. And the reason for that is that we know as a council and a cabinet, we still have work to do, particularly in terms of the review of assets and the priorities for the capital programme. But without stable finances, we know the goals, the vision and the legacy of this council in its remaining 2 years won't be realised and achieved. I second.
Thank you. There are no further speakers. Councillor Jones, please formally move the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just respond to a few points made by Councillor Crowe and Councillor Lanza. I do incidentally agree with every word that Councillor Hilton said. But just to address some of the things that have been said, to Councillor Crowe, the previous government had ample opportunity to reform the local government finance system, and they completely failed to do so. And, you know, talking about West Sussex County Council again, something he's criticised me for on a few occasions in the past. You know, when I think, Madam Mayor, year on year, how Crawley Borough Council lost out under his government, we were one of the worst affected in all the financial changes, when West Sussex County Council tended to do quite well. Well, you know, and he was curiously silent about that. I feel a certain amount of irony entering into this discussion. But as I said earlier, I would dearly love Pixel to be correct. I'm not remotely trying to manage expectations. I'll be delighted if they prove to be accurate, but we just can't put all our eggs in with one basket. I think the indication we've had from LG Futures is, who are in themselves a very respectable and solid organisation when it comes to modelling these scenarios. We have to take that seriously, even if we hope that the conventional modellers are right. This time last year as well, I do recall Councillor Crowe rather being the prophet of doom about pay settlements as part of his usual union bashing last year. But it was the dog that didn't bark, Madam Mayor. We feel that this is an accurate estimate of what the pay award will be at present. But as I said, this administration, this Labour administration, has a firm hand on this council's finances, and the figures speak for themselves on our records. We'd been in a lot worse position if we had stood idly by whilst the things and the crises that were engulfing local government had impacted on us in the way that they have in many other places. Addressing the capital programme, Councillor Lanza has mentioned there's been slippage. Yes, and most of that slippage has been through minor delays. There have been some projects that aren't going to be able to go ahead on a longer basis, but there's not many of those. Some of these delays are just by a quarter or a couple of quarters. Some have been delayed by water neutrality. Now, that latter one will obviously clearly be changing now and won't be the obstacle that it was. Thanks to Councillor Lanza for the advice, but please give us a bit more credit. We won't take out loans until officers advise us, given the logistics, that things are going to go ahead. And indeed, borrowing isn't going to be immediate because A, we still have some capital reserve left, but B, also we're going to take an open-minded but hard-headed look at what this council owns, and if there are any disposals that might actually result in a capital receipt which could bring down our borrowing, we will do that because that will be the prudent thing to do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is that agreed, or would you like a vote on it? Agreed. Thank you. Recommendation 3, 2026-2027 Housing Revenue Account Business Plan, starting on page 120. Councillor Jones, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Housing Revenue Account Business Plan, I have great pleasure in proposing this. It's been developed to put sound financial governance around the HRA, ensuring that it's both financially robust and strategically aligned to our housing priorities. The HRA, for those not quite as familiar with local government as we are, is a landlord account recording all the expenditure and income arising from the provision of housing accommodation for council tenants. It's a ring-fenced account with rent income as the primary source of income. Therefore, it's important to forecast the long-term financial sustainability of the HRA to deliver the council's priorities with regards to affordable council homes for Crawley. The business plan is modelled on rent of CPI plus 1% until 2035-36, which gives a baseline position for the HRA of affordable. It should be noted that a rent increase of anything less than this will impact on that affordability. It should also be remembered that rent levels have been suppressed over several years by the Cameron government mandated below inflation rent increases, which was CPI minus 1%. The harm that this actually inflicted at the time, Madam Mayor, I don't think can be undistressed, but that's what councils were required to do. And it should be noted that that was probably against the spirit of the original intention of the self-financing system in 2012 that the same Cameron government brought in, which forced the council to take on significant debt in return for freedoms to plan and fund housing services and capital investment funded by rents. It should be noted that the assumptions for capital spend are subject to a level of uncertainty due to the council stock condition data, which is still to be completed. Now, that survey is due to be completed by the end of December 2025, although I am pleased to say that officers have advised thus far, anecdotally, the surveyors are generally finding the stock in good condition. But Saying that, Madam Mayor, we will need to have a deeper dive into the data when it is fully collated to be entirely sure that that is in line with expectations. Borrowing is the main source of capital financing for the development projects within the HRA. The plan documents the increasing need to borrow for capital and to repay the self-financing loan taken out in 2011-2012. It should be noted that any changes in incomes, costs or assumptions will impact on the affordability of the plan. In the summary of the business plan, the baseline position shows that the business plan performs well and is affordable throughout the period of the plan. It shows that the HRA is able to maintain at least a minimum level of balances of £5 million throughout the 30-year period. This is extremely welcome and shows that the Council's HRA is in relatively good health. The baseline position allows for completion of the existing development programme. However, any new schemes would need to be added to the model and would impact the overall forecast position. It is worth saying, however, that the current aspirations would deliver over 540 new council homes, which would be a substantial increase to our stock and will fulfil a great need from residents who have sufficient local connection under the council's application requirements. It is also worth saying that while some of these debt figures might sound large to councillors and indeed the public, it needs to be remembered that figure does not take into account the significant rental income that will be received on the overall stock, made further secure through recent changes to right to buy made by the government, particularly the length of time before the new homes built can be sold. Other changes by the government, including the proportion of sales receipts kept by the council and also the use of the one-for-one receipts towards new building, have also been extremely helpful in that regard. Our HRA is largely in the good condition it is today, in my judgment, Madam Mayor, because we as a council have done the house building in a period when many other, if not most, local authorities weren't. We can move forward, therefore, with some confidence, but there will be some dependency on how much decarbonisation and energy efficiency requirements to the Crawley Homes estate will directly cost the council, as well as the results of the stock condition survey. We have delivered, we will continue to deliver, but we also will remain vigilant. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine, I believe you are seconding the recommendation.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Can I speak later? No one else wants to
that's
speak?
fine. I will now open up the debate to the floor. No? Okay. As we do not have any further speakers, Councillor Irvine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief. I just want to say really that taking into account the healthy state of the housing revenue account, the good inspection result outcome from the social housing regulator, and our full programme of house building, I think we can say that our future regards social housing in Crawley is looking better than it has done for some time. And I think I'd like to. It's an evening for thanking people, really, but I'd like to thank all the people who've contributed to that. And that includes all councillors, actually, because I've found, actually, that councillors have been supportive of what we've been doing. I've noticed this particularly going to the Overview of the Scrutiny Commission when I've presented over quite a few months now various housing policies, and we've always had constructive and useful discussions there. So, and I think ultimately we can take some satisfaction in the knowledge that in our own way we have contributed to producing a housing service which is really fit for the future and fit for purpose. And I'd just like to finish by saying that this is a 30-year business plan. I hope that I'm still here in 30 years to see what the outcome of it is. But I can't guarantee that because I'll be 98 by then.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. There are no further speakers. Councillor Jones, please formally move the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too hope Councillor Irvine is here with us in 30 years' time as well. But he'll have a few elections to get through before that. But thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to finish, I'm clear that we have to take any increased debt pressures on our housing revenue account seriously. but our advisors are clearly telling us that our plans for our council home building programme are affordable, and we are handling the housing revenue account well. And indeed, that this is one of the best financed HRAs they've seen in recent years. And that's a tribute to this council and our stewardship. House building is expensive, there's no avoiding that, but that also comes with increased rental income with security that won't be eroded in the way that we experienced over past decades. And I would say to any naysayers out there, we have to remember that we still have a housing emergency in this borough. That can't be forgotten, and this council won't forget it. I formally move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that agreed, or would you like a vote on it? Thank you. Recommendation 4, Corporate Plan 2025-2028, starting on page 122. Councillor Jones, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank all the officers and CMT who helped myself and the Cabinet put the corporate plan together for this year. The Council has a corporate plan which is due to take us to 2027, and we are delivering the priorities which were set out in that plan. But since then, the landscape's changed, which means we need to refresh and renew our plan. Now, local government reorganisation means that Crawley Borough Council will cease to exist, and the powers and responsibilities of the council will be transferred to a new council. But before this happens, we want to ensure that the council remains focused on delivering for local people in Crawley. And while local government reorganisation will put additional strain on the council's already strained resources, we still have a job to do for local people, and we're not going to forget that. This plan is therefore setting out our priorities until a new council is vested. It gives clear direction to officers about the work that needs to be done and the issues that the council wants to prioritise. It will ensure that we remain focused on delivering, something which is always important, but even more so with local government reorganisation and the limit on our time left. The second change is our corporate peer challenge. Now, in the action plan we published after the CPC, we committed to produce a new corporate plan and would also bring forward performance measures to increase transparency and ensure local people can see the work we are doing for them and with them every day. If full council agree this plan, we will then bring forward measures and report on these to both OSC and Cabinet next month to show our progress on delivering the plan in the future. In terms of key features, we cannot do everything with the time we have left as much as we would like to, although we will try our best to do as much as we can. And we have to make choices about the key areas we'll prioritise and the outcomes that we want to see. In this plan, we focus on 5 areas which we believe tackle the biggest challenges that the town faces, as well as improving the town, its services and facilities so that everyone who lives, works or has fun here can get the very best from Crawley. These areas are to create a thriving local economy with green jobs, and to tackling the housing emergency, ensuring that Crawley is a vibrant town with high quality facilities, to build connected and thriving communities, and to prepare Crawley for the future. In addition, we make 5 key commitments to Crawley. We will develop and implement a new economic and placemaking vision that maximises the opportunities to develop Crawley's vibrant economy. We will work with Network Rail and West Sussex County Council to deliver improvement to Three Bridges Station. We will get major new housing projects underway for Crawley residents and develop a pipeline for new homes in the future to tackle the housing emergency. We've spoken more on this in the previous item, but over 540 units either delivered or under construction by the end of this council is an ambitious target for a council of our size, but one we feel a high level of confidence that we can make deliverable, provided all the conditions are met, some which are dependent on third parties. We will create a lasting legacy for the borough and its residents by transforming Goffs Park in the heart of our town. And we will create a new town council that will protect and champion the new town offer for residents. In a time of uncertainty, our corporate plan sets out clear direction to continue delivering for Crawley, to ensure that the council is focused on local priorities and that Crawley is in the best place for the future when a new council starts the next chapter of our town story. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hilton, I believe you are seconding the recommendation.
I am seconding the recommendation, but I'd like to reserve my right to speak, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now open up the debate to the floor. Okay. We have an amendment on this recommendation. This is detailed on page 21 of the supplementary agenda. Councillor Crowe, please introduce your amendment.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I formally move my amendment. The government is taking a wrecking ball to local government, although I'm not quite sure who's going to be Miley Cyrus, but they are smashing local government, and therefore it is right that we modify our corporate plan to time it to take us to the end of this council to make sure we have the smoothest of transitions possible. So the principle of doing that is sound, and that I welcome. And I look at the priorities, and actually it's hard to disagree with them around the economy, although the words are, well, they're aspirational, which is nice to see. Although whether the delivery will be attainable, we will have to wait and see. And I welcome the moves on housing, especially with water neutrality having been lifted. That is the opportunity to create more and better housing, hopefully within Crawley. So it's very hard to argue against the executive summary of the priorities, and indeed the strategic programmes to deliver them are fine. And then I turned over the page, and then suddenly, well, what's this? Town Council. Create a town council which will protect and champion the new town offer for the residents of Crawley. Now, that would have been potentially, because you might not think about a fairly neutral position on the establishment of a town council. That might have been perfectly fine once the community governance review had been undertaken. But it's not. It's literally just started. We've got the leaflet here. It's literally going out right now. And yet, our corporate plan that we're being asked to adopt tonight is actually saying, well, do you know what? It doesn't matter what you think, people of Crawley. We're doing it anyway. We voted for it. It's here in our corporate plan. This is our priority to do it. So, you know, the consultation on a town council is a sham. And I noticed that the leader didn't, well, perhaps he will address my amendment when he comes to sum up, but he's not referenced it at all. So I'm not comfortable the Conservative group are not comfortable voting for a corporate plan that, with this particular action, is taking the people of Crawley for mugs. We're consulting you, but hey-ho, actually, we're already doing it. And it's not the first time, because although this is the discussion around the corporate plan, the actual consultation itself for the town council is making an awful lot of assumptions and inaccuracies. And you know, I look at this leaflet and it says, Crawley will no longer have its own voice, representation or ability to shape future services or facilities. Well, what is it that we do? What is it that the new council will do? They will do exactly that. And then I look in the middle and it says, town councillors that would represent residents would be elected only by residents that live in Crawley. Well, where else would they live? You know, that's exactly what happens now for whatever tier of representation that we have within Crawley, whether it's county, borough, or if it's town councillors in the future. And then it says on the third section, Crawley would be at a disadvantage compared to neighbouring areas who already have a parish or a town council. Well, I don't know how many of you talk to colleagues elsewhere who have a town or parish council, but whenever I talk to colleagues who do, they're forever complaining about how much moaning goes on at those town council meetings and parish council meetings and how little actually gets done. So let's not just automatically assume that it is the right thing. Like I say, I have a neutral position, but yes, I do. But sometimes people need to say a few things, not just sweep things under the carpet. But our corporate plan, as I've said before, is taking the people of Crawley for mugs on this particular item. So therefore, the amendment that we are proposing simply puts, adds a comma, and then says subject to the findings of the Community Governance Review. Now, what could be wrong with that? If the people of Crawley in the review say, yes, let's have a town council, then great, let's get on with it, let's make it work, let's make the best of it. But if it doesn't, then we've already agreed it anyway. So if you want to prove that this consultation going on now is not a sham, you need to vote for our amendment to show that actually we are not taking the people of Crawley for granted. So Therefore, I hope I've made a reasoned argument to support the amendment, and we will support the corporate plan if our amendment is supported. But if it is not, then the Conservative Group will abstain on the corporate plan, because we will not assume what the people of Crawley are going to say from the Community Governance Review. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lanza, I believe you are seconding the amendment, and in doing so, please confirm if you're wishing to speak now or reserve your rights to speak later during the debate.
Madam Mayor, can I speak now, please?
Yes?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like Councillor Jones and Councillor Crowe, I welcome the update to the corporate plan. It's important to preserve ambition for our place, notwithstanding the local government reorganisation agenda. I think that is fundamental. But part of the ambition for our place, part of the future of our place, will be representation conferred by a town council or some other arrangement. So it's a matter of considerable importance. And we shouldn't underestimate what a town council would represent, or another solution such as parishes on whatever boundaries within the borough. Because when you look around the country, it's not a small matter. There are some town councils which charge a significant amount of council tax, and of course the government has no capping power with respect to town councils and parish councils. And you see some town councils with a 3-figure sum per annum in council tax. So it's not a small matter. We need to respect the views of the public. It's a matter of trust. It's a matter of trusting the people. And there could be views coming forward through the public consultation that people do believe a town council on the borough boundary is an appropriate form of representation, that it's the right way to represent Crawley's voice. However, there could be some people, and I'm going to reflect on my own experience canvassing and talking to residents. I cannot recall the last time that anyone said to me they want to see more councillors. So that's a viewpoint you might get in the consultation as well. And another point, I suppose, which you might like to consider when the consultation is over, is the response rate. Because, okay, if you only got 10 or 20 people responding, maybe you wouldn't apply that much weight to that. But if there's, I don't know, hundreds or even thousands of people responding, then their views must be noted, they must be respected and actually acted upon. And there's an important point here about the future of Crawley, because if you vote against this amendment and say we're really not interested in what residents think, what are residents going to think about their prospects under a new town council many of your colleagues or you might be serving upon? If you won't trust them, if you won't trust the people when they give their opinion in this consultation, what hope can they have that you would properly represent them in a Crawley Town Council or even a parish council? It is a matter of trust. This is not a binding amendment. It's an amendment which says take account of the consultation that you yourselves are launching. What on earth could be wrong with that? It would be perverse of you to vote against it, but I suspect that won't prevent you from doing so.
Thank you. I will now open up the debate to the floor. Councillor Chris Mullins.
I just wanted to make a quick comment on this because, you know, we have spent the whole of our time on all these years working and relating to the people of Crawley. And for you to sort of try and indicate here that we're likely to ignore the people of Crawley cannot be allowed to get away with. We are not doing that, and we never have done. But we have a duty also, though, to give leadership And what we're trying to do in all of this is to give leadership and show what the highest lows of it all are. There isn't a town, hamlet or anything in the whole of Sussex that hasn't got some sort of local representation in the neighbourhoods where they are. And all we're trying to say is that Crawley needs its local representation. I'll leave it there.
Councillor Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think we're saying that you're not spending time for Crawley. I think we're all here, whatever party we belong to, we're all here for the good of Crawley people. I know we agree with that. But I must say that I feel the wording could be a little different to leave it more open to people. Using the word could rather than would have made such a difference and would have left more of a choice. The way it's been written, it does sound as though it's a matter already made up, and we know it's not. We know that it's open to people, but the way it's been written, it sounds as if it's a done deal. That's all. But I know that we're all here for Crawley, so please, we're not saying that no one's here. We're all here for people of Crawley, but we just want it to be offered in a fair and open way that people can understand and relate to, and I'm sure you understand that. Thank you.
Councillor Hilton.
Oh, I'm on. So I was just discussing whether I'm talking to the main debate or the amendment. Looks like I'm talking on the amendment. Both. Or both? Okay. So I'll have to say we accept it.
You can,
Yeah, or I'll leave that to you. Sorry. It's a shame that this corporate discussion on the corporate plan has kind of been taken over by one discussion and a set of words on the town council, which I believe we'll actually be discussing later. That is my first comment on the amendment. And I have to say that there seems to be an assumption that we will necessarily not support it because it's been brought up by the other side. Personally, I would prefer the wording subject to completion of the community governance review, but again, it's a word on a very good document. So I'm quite happy to not discuss the amendment now and leave it to my colleague Councillor Jones and actually speak on the main thing we were discussing, the main thing. Because the corporate plan, in my view, is so easy to read, it talks with clarity, and it's such a good summary of the Labour's Council's vision, goals and priorities as Crawley Borough Council's time comes to an end. It looks at the 5 main strategic objects which focus on the priority programme of Crawley Borough Council's going out, and shows that Crawley Borough Council's going out of a bang and not a whimper, and shows that we're looking at the short-term challenges ahead, and particularly dealing with the housing emergency, but also aware of the legacy of Crawley Borough Council and its predecessor, the Urban District Council, brought to the residents in 1956. Its legacy will be through transforming Goss Park, while the Town Council will hopefully continue the work of all administrations in Crawley who have delivered for residents assets such as K2, Tilgate Park, Worth Park and the Holt. I just think the corporate plan in its own is good. I don't want to talk about the wording. I think endorsing this corporate plan when I'm seconding the recommendation, I think it will stand the test of time. I'm sure it stands as a good reference point for what Crawley Borough achieved in its final years. The outputs are easy to follow. I look forward to the next step in the process where the Council introduces measures to test the progress of these objectives and priority. So I second the substantive motion and I will leave it to Councillor Jones to talk about the amendment.
Speakers, Councillor Jones, please formally move the recommendation.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to members for your thoughts tonight, I think. with respect to the town council, the corporate plan sets out the view of the administration that there should be a town council. This does not mean that the council's not open to other options, Madam Mayor. The Community Governance Review expects to hear from a wide range of people and will consider all the responses and ideas that come forward. Now, a statement now of the administration's position of wanting of a town council does not preclude amendment further down the line. Now, to a certain extent, I feel an element of frustration because we discussed all this at the Governance Committee, Councillor Crowe. This is a statement of intent. This is the administration being honest and transparent. This is something that we think would be a good outcome. With regard to the Conservative amendment to add to the plan that the Town Council would be subject to the findings of the Community Governance Review, as that is part of the process, I have no objection to adding it. Again, it is more for clarity as no such authority can proceed without a Community Governance Review taking place. I have to say though, Madam Mayor, I'm pretty taken aback by the ferocity of some of his wording. Our consultation is entirely genuine, and I don't think there's a shred of evidence to suggest otherwise. And as for the reference to people at the parishes only moaning at parish councils, this might be an insight into the Conservative Party's view of democracy as a cross in a box every 4 years. Well, not when it looks like it's going to go badly for them. Then they write to the government asking for a delay. But I'm not having the debate on the corporate plan become a referendum on the benefits of a town council. I'd say to the Conservative councillors opposite, wait until the reserved item on the Governance Committee, on the Community Governance Review later in the meeting, and I'll discuss it with you to any depth you care for. But at least if you don't want it, say you don't want it. Don't grasp for every random reason that enters your head. But just moving on to the other points. With regard to diversity of jobs, we are incorporating job diversity into any economic plan, and I felt it was implicit in the statement that a strong and diverse economy that is not overly reliant on any one business sector would be an aim of such work. But the Cabinet were happy to make the amendment requested by OSC for clarity. It also needs to be stressed that even by agreeing this corporate plan, we aren't excluding doing other things just because we are setting out our priorities. So if there's a really great idea, we're not going to say, well, no, it's not on the list, it's not being done. But some of the detail of what we will be doing will come through with the performance indicators. And I'm surprised they haven't been discussed a bit more tonight, given some of the previous meetings. But there are definitely other things that we will want to do before this council is finished. And but this is a very good start to ensuring that we are as organised and as focused on those things that we really want to get done, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, can I ask whether or not you are accepting the Conservative amendment?
Sorry if I didn't make that clear, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm happy personally to accept the amendment for the reasons I outlined. There isn't some great conspiracy there.
On this one, I think. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I call for a vote on substantive recommendation for Corporate Plan 2025-2028 as amended. Can I have a show of hands in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. We are now moving on to the recommendation 5, Building Control Review, Alternative Provision of Building Control Services of Crawley, which relates to an exempt Part B report. I'm aiming to hold the debate on this recommendation in open session. Is there any objection to this approach? No? Okay. I will now call on the monitoring officer to provide advice.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While continuing in Part A, as you've just agreed, members can only discuss information that's in the public domain.
as detailed in the Cabinet Minute from page 123. So members, please do not reference any other financial figures or rejected options, as these are not in the public domain. Thank you.
We will consider building control review alternative provision of building control services of Crawley. Starting on page 123, Councillor Jones, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As members can see from the report, and I will restrict myself given the advice from the monitoring officer, given a choice in this matter, establishing Crawley's own in-house building control team and separating building control services away from Horsham District Council would not be our preferred route for the council. The forthcoming local government reorganisation means we are set to be merging rather than separating council services as part of a larger unitary authority. So, on the face of it, separating building control from Horsham does not appear to make any sense at all. It will merely mean that they inherit the problem all over again in 2 years' time, which is not joined up thinking from our perspective here in Crawley. However, Crawley has a statutory duty to ensure continuation of a building control function which serves residents, builders, developers, businesses in Crawley. And our officers have advised, therefore, that the least worst option, bearing in mind we have no choice, is for the council to set up a statutory in-house building control team, which provides the minimum permissible to comply with our statutory duties and to agree for the council to launch a temporary building control service until the end of March 2026. This is in order for officers to undertake a further review of options for future building control service provision in Crawley. Last but not least, full councillors requested to approve up to £200,000 of supplementary budget for the period to the end of March next year. This is to ensure the necessary financial resources to launch Crawley's internal building control team. While I'm not pleased with how this has turned out, and an additional revenue cost is far from ideal, unfortunately I feel the council has little options to proceed with this option. Martin Boffey, the Horsham leader, knows I will be expressing my disappointment, as I am doing now. As it stands, the problem they're trying to remove, I think, is only going to come back to them, perhaps with the risk that much of the work has been lost to other sources in the meantime. Not a suitable long-term decision at all, and I hope they reconsider in due course, but we will work to find a solution come what may. Thank you.
If you're seconding the recommendation,
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll speak later. Okay, thank you.
that's fine, thank you. I will now open up the debate to the floor. Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for moving that recommendation, which I certainly support. Now, the Sussex Building Control Partnership was set up under the Conservative administration. It is one of our longest-standing shared services, and I very much agree with his view that it's disappointing that it's come to this. It really doesn't bode well, in some senses, for local government reorganisation when you've got a shared service in place and you dismantle it with respect to one of the authorities that you're going to be merged with in the new setup, regardless of which option the government selects for the future of local government in West Sussex. I think it important to note and commend the efforts undertaken by the officers to find different solutions, and I say that in my role as Shadow Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development. I'm aware of the great efforts they made to find other courses of action, really over, I would say, several years, which wouldn't necessarily have created that new draw on revenue resources that the leader referred to. And given that those best efforts didn't work, and no one on our side is to blame for that, then the only and best way forward is that which we see in the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I certainly agree with what Councillor Jones has said this evening, and I'm sure he'll still find a way to have a dig at me in the ingenious ways that only he can find. And I also support what Councillor Lanza has said as well. And this was one of the one of many achievements from when Councillor Lanza was leader of this council for nearly 8 years. And it is disappointing to see it brought to an end like this. And it's perhaps an early exposure for most members here to, like, quite frankly, what the Lib Dems are like. Most of us have no experience of Liberal Democrats, but they're there and they're very real. And even though we probably won't be seeing them in Crawley in the future, we are both groups are going to end up having to work with them. And perhaps there might come a day where Councillor Jones might be reminding Martin Boffey of what they have done, because there might be a scenario where Mr. Boffey needs Mr. Jones and his group's support to form a leadership of a council. Who knows? So perhaps I have a long memory, and I'm sure Councillor Jones does as well. So this is disappointing. We haven't really got much option, so we do need to do this, given the way this has panned out. So we will be supporting recommendation 5. Thank you.
Thank you. May I bring in Councillor Irvine?
Yeah, that's fine, Madam Mayor. There's not really much I can add, because I don't have a crystal ball to look into to see what might or might not happen in the future. We have to have a building control service. This is the only option we have to continue that service. And once again, this is the Labour Council being pragmatic in carrying out its duties. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers. Councillor Jones, please formally move the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally move.
Thank you. Is that agreed, or would you like a vote on it? Thank you. The next two recommendations are from the Governance Committee meeting held on 13th October 2025. Recommendation 6, changes to the Constitution. Licensing Committee starts on page 12 within the supplementary agenda. Councillor Lannan, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The changes we're making to the Licensing Committee are sort of twofold, two separate strands. First of all, it was an audit finding that the food safety elements of the functions of the Licensing Committee were quite technical and didn't really sit at committee level. So we're suggesting through the Constitution that they're moved down to below the committee level, but still responsibility of the committee, but they won't actually look into them. The second part of it is around speaking rights at the Licensing Committee. These have already been trialled by the chair of the Licensing Committee and have the full support of the chair of the Licensing Committee at the previous Licensing Committee meeting. And the purpose of them is to provide a bit more structure to those public speakers and some understanding to those public speaking bodies, especially those that represent larger groups, such as specifically Hackney Carriages and private hire members, so they know exactly when they're supposed to speak and that they will have an opportunity to speak. What should be made clear, though, is that the chair still has full discretion to allow anybody to speak at those meetings if the chair so wishes. So we're not ruling anybody out from speaking, we're just trying to provide a bit more structure in the Licensing Committee meetings as to who can speak and when. Those are the two recommendations. It went through governance fairly unanimously, so hopefully it'll go through full council unanimously. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lanza, I believe you're seconding the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't often get a chance to do this. It's quite novel, but yes, I'll second them, yeah.
Thank you. I will now open up the debate to the floor. There are no further speakers. Yeah. Councillor Lannan, please formally move the recommendation.
Thank you, and it is an absolute honour to be seconded by Councillor Lanza, probably the only time it'll happen apart from the next item as well. But otherwise, yes, I do formally propose it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that agreed, or would you like a vote on it? Thank you. Recommendation 7, Changes to the Constitution Audit Committee starts on page 13 of the supplementary agenda. Councillor Lannan, please introduce this recommendation.
Thank you. And if you thought the previous item was dry, this is even more constitutionally specific. In this case, we're tidying up the Constitution to specifically align the Audit Committee functions and in line with the latest SIPFA recommendations. You can read the papers on it. Again, this is nodded through at governance fairly happily and has been agreed by the Chair of Governance. I don't think I've got anything further to say. It's very technical and specific, but nothing significant is changing except to bring us in line with the latest standards.
You're seconding the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I second.
Thank you. I will now open up the debate to the floor. There are no further speakers. Councillor Lannan, please formally move the recommendation.
Well, obviously we need Councillor Lanza to second more things because everybody's just wowed into silence by his rhetoric. But nevertheless, I formally propose.
Thank you. Before we consider item 8 of the agenda, I will allow some time for councillors to say a few words about Siraj Chowdhury, the Council Monitoring Officer and Head of Governance, People and Performance. Siraj will be completing his time at Crawley on Sunday, 2nd November, before he starts his new role as Director of Law and Governance at the London Borough of Sutton. We will start with Councillor Jones, followed by Councillor Crowe, and then I will open it up to the floor. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would like to thank Siraj for his service to this council for what is approaching 5 years. He has been inflappable in all of the circumstances, in my experience. His first full council, as I recall, was under fairly exceptional circumstances, with the political balance of the council being at stake. Nothing too important, but happily, his final meeting, I hope, will not be as fraught. It doesn't appear to have been so far, but it's famous last words. But thank you to Siraj, because he's seen us through some major challenges for the council, for which I thank him personally. Siraj, good luck in Sutton. It will be less of a commute, I suspect. And all of our best wishes to you for the future from the Labour Group. It appears to me that many of CMT, past and present, have gone on to such roles, which shows that clearly there must be something about Crawley Borough Council, or indeed the experiences you gain from dealing with the likes of me that stand you in good stead for the other councils like that. So all the very best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On behalf of the Conservative Group, I wish to offer our sincere thanks and best wishes for the future to Siraj Chowdhury, and certainly thank him for his time here at this council. Which, Councillor Jones has mentioned that famous meeting at the Charis Centre. Of course, we were in the old town hall, then we were having our full council meetings at the Charis Centre. Seems like a long time ago now, and I believe Mr. Chowdhury had been in post about 5 or 6 weeks. This was his first meeting, and I have Siraj personally to thank for not being leader of this council. He effectively gave a decision, but he acted in the correct interest of the council. And well, I'll try and rephrase that. He acted in the best interest of the Constitution in terms of how he interpreted it, and in terms of being able to reach a decision. But that was certainly a memorable baptism of fire to adjudicate on control of, who was going to be council leader, and ultimately have political control of this council. And perhaps it was, I wouldn't say it was all downhill from there, but perhaps less eventful in terms of full council meetings. But of course, the democracy side is only one part of the role. Of course, there is the HR side as well, which of course is significant in terms of the number of staff that we have. So we while we have our own memories here in terms of meetings, we should remember, of course, the role that he has had within the whole organisation. That has been significant. And put it this way, I've never heard a bad word said about him from anybody. So that for me is a pretty good testament. And I'm sure well, we're going to make an appointment later, but I'm sure we will all miss you and wish you all the very best of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. I'd like to take a moment to thank Siraj Chowdhury for his dedicated service as Council Monitoring Officer, Head of Governance, People and Performance. His professionalism, integrity and steady guidance have been deeply valued across this council and beyond. As he embarks on a new role at the London Borough of Sutton, we wish him every success and happiness in the next chapter of his journey. Our warmest thanks and best wishes go with him. Thank you. Finally, a call for a vote of thanks for Siraj. Is that agreed? Thank you. Siraj, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for those kind words, and to Councillor Jones and Councillor Crowe for those kind words. It's been an honour and a privilege to work for Crawley Borough Council and to serve as the Statutory Monitoring Officer for 4.5 years. I'm proud to have played my role in ensuring the Council's governance arrangements have remained robust, rigorous and transparent. I've enjoyed working with the Leader, the Cabinet and the Leader of the Opposition, similarly with the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Committee Chairs and Vice Chairs, worked with all of them closely. I'd like to thank them all for their good grace in seeking my advice, receiving it and on the whole accepting the advice. I must reflect the friendly and collegiate culture that we have here at Crawley, and I'm happy to say that working with all members has been a pleasure. Your dedication and passion for the town shines through in all that you do. One part of my role is overseeing complaints made under the Councillors' Code of Conduct. And I'd like to thank members for not keeping me too busy on that front, but also where I have had to investigate for your cooperation all round. So thank you for that. I'd like to thank our two independent persons, Peter Nicholson is back there, I don't think Russell's with us today, and Russell Brown for their sage advice and kind of helpful support on the conduct matters. At an operational level, a quick thank you to Natalie Brahma-Pearl and Ian Jupe, my two chief executives during the period, and corporate management team for their support and collaboration. Councillor Crowe mentioned my other functions, so I will just pay tribute to my colleagues within my division in legal, HR, health and safety, corporate performance, the data team, democratic services and the elections team. They all form a key part of the council's machinery. Finally, just like to thank Chris Pedlow beside me here for his support. He served as a reliable and a very capable Deputy Monitoring Officer, and I know he will continue to provide sound advice and support to members. So there'll always be a place in my heart for Crawley, and I'll continue to watch and see how you get on, and I'm sure the town will continue to grow and rejoice. Thank you.
Thank you, Siraj. We now return to agenda item 8, appointment of an interim monitoring officer and consideration of any recommendation from the employment panel for the appointment of a permanent monitoring officer. This report contains 2 recommendations and we will take these separately. Councillor Jones, please move recommendation 8, appointment of an interim monitoring officer as contained within report CEX 73 by the Chief Executive, which is detailed from page 127 onwards. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm reporting back as the chair of the employment panel. I can confirm that the appointments panel conducted a very thorough interview with the candidate, Jane Cryer. Thanks to all the other panel members who gave their time for this. This was the final stage of a rigorous recruitment process, which included a technical panel, stakeholder panel, and a detailed scenarios exercise. The candidate performed very well across all these elements. The appointments panel was impressed with Jane's extensive experience in the public sector and with her specific knowledge and experience gained while serving as the monitoring officer for Gloucester City Council. Jane delivered an excellent presentation which demonstrated that she is familiar with the challenges and opportunities within Crawley Borough Council and what it faces in the coming years. I'm confident that Jane will work well with members, with the Chief Executive and with the corporate management team. And my thanks to everyone involved in the paid service for the who participated in the selection process as well. So what I would say with that, Madam Chair, is I formally will propose this appointment. In the meantime, we will need to make interim arrangements while Jane serves out any notice period required of her at Gloucester. So I am pleased to propose, in line with the papers, that we appoint Chris Pedlow as the interim monitoring officer and data protection officer. Chris, as has been said just now, has been Siraj's deputy for some time and will be able to cover the requirements of the role until such time as Jane Cryer joins us, as well as being a long-established officer here at Crawley Borough Council and well known to all members. So I formally propose for his appointment as well. Thank you.
Councillor Crowe, I believe you're seconding the recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally second the recommendation. I get to do it as well, Bob, sometimes. And very pleased to second Jane Cryer to be our new monitoring officer and the head of law and governance when she's able to take up the employment. Myself and Councillor Bidwell are very pleased to be members of the employment panel. And I echo what Councillor Jones has said in terms of how we were impressed with her and are confident that she will perform well in the role and be an asset to this council, and we did look forward to welcoming her, hopefully, when the next meeting that will be. I'm not quite sure when that is, but we were very pleased, and the market for people of calibre for this kind of role is difficult. It's not easy to find well qualified and suitable people for such a complex role. So we were very, I felt we were very, I won't say lucky, but very, very pleased, and we did well to be able to attract her to this council. I too am happy to also support and second the interim arrangements with Mr. Chris Pedlow, and I'm sure he will be fine in the role. And of course, the Conservative group will be supporting. We always take the view we should support the findings of the cross-party employment panel. So we will be voting for the recommendation.
I will now open up the debate to the floor. Okay. There are no further speakers. Councillor Jones, please formally move recommendation 8, appointment of an interim monitoring officer. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally move.
Is that agreed, or would you like a vote on it?
Agreed.
Thank you.
This bit.
Yeah. Councillor Jones, please formally move recommendation 9, appointment of the council's monitoring officer. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally move.
That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is councillors' question time. We have 30 minutes for this item. All councillors who ask questions will be allowed a supplementary question. As usual, and where possible, I will rotate between the groups when I take questions. We will start with the 2 written questions which have been submitted in advance. These are detailed in the supplementary agenda from page 17. This includes the responses. Councillor Hellier, do you wish to ask a supplementary question? Yeah. Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your response on this. I just have one comment and one question, really. You just mentioned that the incidences on property boards being left in situ long after dates that they should have been removed. relatively isolated. If you walk around the town, they're not isolated. There are a significant volume of those. So I thought I'd draw that to your attention. But my question is in relation to your comment on West Sussex County Council and signs situated, for instance, on the wall at Stone Court. I have drawn this to the attention of Crawley Borough Council a couple of times formally. We did have a couple of signs removed, but they quickly went back, and if you actually look, a lot of the properties aren't actually for sale. So my question is, when did we advise West Sussex County Council? Because you say that they deal directly with these.
Thank you to Councillor Hellier. And I'm not trying to dispute that these things are a nuisance and they're unsightly where they are, that they are left in place. But in terms of the advice about some of the removals being down to the West Sussex County Council, that's the advice I've received from the officers. I mean, if you'd like to pursue that further with me offline, I'm more than happy to enter into that. My experience is we sometimes get residents complain to us that these things are there, but in practice, what we found is when officers have actually raised it with the organisations responsible, whether they're letting agents or estate agents or whoever they are, it does tend to be the case that when it is actually clear to those companies that it's reached our attention, they do tend to, in practice, get removed quite quickly. We don't get a situation very often where we have to even consider legal action. It does happen, but what I would say is more of a problem is if residents complain about it but then don't tell us precisely where they are. And I would urge in those circumstances, if people think there is a long-running problem somewhere and they want to bring it to our attention, they need to be specific about where that is. But as I say, I'm happy to pursue that other point you raised offline if you'd like that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Lanza, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Madam Mayor, no thanks, but just thanks to Councillor Noyce for his response.
Do you have another question? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. This is to Councillor Hilton, and this concerns the government approving the development consent order for Gatwick Airport to use the standby runway for some departures. How is his portfolio initially planning to respond to that announcement and its environmental impacts, with particular reference to two emergencies that the Council has declared? Firstly, the climate emergency declared in July 2019, and secondly, the nature emergency declared in December 2024. Thank you.
Back on again.
Yes, on.
Thank you, Councillor Lanza, for the question. In terms of our response as a council, we're still looking through it. I think the response came in very quick, came prematurely. I think we were expecting the 27th of October. I think we're still looking through it, and I think we're making a submission there as part of the joint local authorities as well. I'm also a member of GATCOM, and that is obviously a consultative body which represents all different people from different processes. And we did have a steering group meeting last week, and quite interestingly, because the 6-week period in which you can put a judicial review, no comment was made by anyone, and it sounds like a judicial review, some kind of legal action. But in terms of Crawley Borough Council's view, our initial view is that obviously we'd have to look at the environmental impact, but in terms of our actual nature and our climate change, Gatwick Airport is not part of our Scope 1, Scope 2 and Scope 3 emissions. So it doesn't really although it's part of the borough of Salt, it's not really part of our Scope 1 and Scope 2, but we are looking at the impact. In terms of generally, in terms of Gatwick DCO, a good thing, I believe, from talking to various officers, etc., is the Section 106 agreements. And within their Section 106 agreements, hopefully, in terms of environment and sustainability, we should get some benefit from that. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Lanza. It's quite obviously a very large issue, and we are looking at it very closely, but hopefully that covers some of the points you've raised with me tonight.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor to any members wishing to ask a question of either cabinet members or committee chairs. Please press your button now. Both groups have provided me with a list, so I will use that list to guide the debate. Councillor Abu Musa.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to Councillor Irvin. On World Homelessness Day, the government announced £84 million in funding for councils across the country, intended to support families by improving living condition, educational outcome for children residing in temporary accommodation. I would be grateful if you could confirm whether Crawley Borough Council will receive any of this funding. If so, could you please provide details on how the council plans to allocate or utilise these funds? Thank you very much.
Oh, well, I'd like to thank Councillor Abu Musa for a very timely question. Very timely, because as she said, the government announced on World Homeless Day, which was October the 10th, that £84 million will be available to councils across the country. £11 million of that specifically targeted towards children living in temporary accommodation. And our share of this will be £64,000. We plan to use it to provide essentials such as extra food where necessary, school travel, laundry, essential equipment to help children with their schoolwork and so on. Sadly, some of those children may have already had their education disrupted by the school closures during COVID. And I think you can honestly say that you only really get one chance in life to get an education. And I think it's beholden on wider society to give those children the best, on all children to give the best opportunity to get an education. These are the children of our Crawley residents who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in this situation. An unenviable statistic is that this means that we are among the 61 areas of this country with the highest numbers of children living in temporary accommodation. And that, Madam Mayor, is one of the reasons why we were absolutely right to declare a housing emergency in Crawley.
Do you have any supplementary question? Councillor Abu Musa? No. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this flows very nicely from the two previous questions, and I will be quite direct. Last month, the government gave the go-ahead for a second runway at Gatwick, and it's a question to Councillor Irvine, and several people tonight have mentioned the housing emergency. So, with the fact that the government has given the go-ahead to a second runway at Gatwick, what impact do you think this will have on Crawley's housing emergency that was declared in February 2024?
Well, I can only offer a personal opinion on that, Madam Mayor. I mean, I have no way of predicting what might happen, might not happen. But what I do think is that the government is looking at freeing up the planning infrastructure to make it quicker and easier for developments to come forward, to increase housing supply in this area. We will look at all options to increase our housing stock. I always think that, my personal view is that development is not necessarily a bad thing. I think far too often, as soon as someone says that they want to build a house or houses anywhere, up go the NIMBY signs, no to 10 more houses in this village or whatever. I exaggerate slightly, but not by very much. And I think that, okay, that, we don't like to see fields being built over and so on and so forth, but in Sussex, we are absolutely fortunate that we do have certain large areas of the county which are absolutely protected from development, such as the South Downs and to a large extent the High Wealds area of outstanding natural beauty. So personally, and this is just a personal thing, I think that the extension to the airport could actually be a big boost to our town and our area. I don't have any fears about it. I think that with the steps that the government is taking, we can pragmatically look at having the runway and being able to accommodate the results of having a new runway.
Do you have any supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. I felt I didn't really get an answer. I asked what impact he felt the decision would have, and he didn't address that. So I will try this. We'll go on then.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps I could have interrupted earlier, but strategic planning of housing allocation is a planning matter. It isn't strictly Councillor Irvin's portfolio, and he's expressed his view. So I'm not criticising the answer, Councillor Irvin, but I'm just making the point that the question probably should be directed to me in Councillor Nawaz's absence.
Mayor. Thank you. Well, my supplementary question relates to the housing emergency. So I'll try and refresh it like this. Does the Cabinet Member for Housing feel that it is now less likely that we will ever be able to put an end to our declared housing emergency because of the government giving the go-ahead to a second runway at Gatwick? Would you like to speculate as to what date we might be able to remove it?
How can I mean, I don't mind answering the question because it's my personal view, and it's not often I get a chance to get my own personal little soapbox. But I can't possibly predict when such an emergency might end. But all I can say is that I do believe that it will end later rather than sooner, which is a sad thing in my opinion. But I think that all told, there is a future there. I think that I don't think that the new runway will have a detrimental effect on us or our housing emergency. I feel confident that we can overcome our housing emergency given the support of the government and given the support of developers and other local authorities who will be involved in this.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Rana.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for Councillor Jasmine Khan. Recently, we had a very successful Unity event, which took place in the Memorial Gardens. It was such a brilliant, absolutely brilliant event that people all over Crawley participated and attended. It truly showcased our wonderful, diverse town. So my question to Jasmine is, will this event take place every year? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for attending, and thank you for saying that, yes, I think the event was a real good success. We had loads of, like Madam Mayor did mention earlier, that we did have loads of diverse groups there. We had songs, we had music, we had dancing, we had food, I think we had food, and we had some artists there. So yes, plan is to have this event annually, because I think it's really, really important for us to come together and shows unity. And that's what Crawley is all about, the diversity and unity. And I think together we are stronger. And that's the message that we want to give out, that we want to be together and stay stronger and fight against any discrimination and racism that's out there. So yes, attention is annually. Thank you.
Councillor Burgess. Oh, sorry. Councillor Rana, do you have a supplementary question? Okay, that's fine. Councillor Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, before I ask my questions, could it please be noted that I'd like to apologise to residents for failing to attend the Planning Committee on the 14th of October when the Tinsley Lane application was being heard. Personal situations prevented me, so thank you. However, I'm pleased to note that my Three Bridges colleague, Councillor Nawaz, Cabinet Member for Planning, was in attendance. So, Madam Mayor, I was going to direct my question to him, but he's not here. I wondered if I can direct it to Councillor Jones. Now, I hear people are very impressed to hear Councillor Nawaz give an excellent speech at the said planning meeting. He was standing up, quite rightly, for our residents of Tinsley Lane, in particular Birch Lee. The access road for the 138 dwellings must go through Birch Lee, and this will be dangerous and widening by only 50 centimetres. That's about that long, I think, I don't know. In my old money, it's 20 inches, I think. And it will not help, and nor will removing the footpath. And no doubt Councillor Nawaz would have been involved in the application from the start and would know the plans well. And apparently, as he gave an eloquent speech against the application, it begs the question, as Cabinet Member for Planning, do you think he would be disappointed with the Planning Committee approving the application? Were you disappointed? After all, the committee went against his recommendation to refuse the application, I believe. So I value your views and opinion on this. Thank you.
Can I pass to Chris Pedlow?
Oh, sorry, it's a direct question about the planning committee, so it probably should be directed to the chair of the planning committee. And in this case, it'd be Councillor Bidwell because he was in chair for the item.
Fine, yes. I ought to... Who was? Sorry. Councillor Bidwell then, my Councillor too. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for listening to my question, and I'd value your opinion anyway, perhaps in an email. Thank you. Councillor Bidwell, question goes to you.
Are you asking me whether I think that he'd be disappointed that the party governing decided to approve something he spoke against? I don't think I'm going to answer that question. I think it's pretty obvious what he would say.
Thank you. Do you have any
point of order?
Yeah.
Hello. I haven't got. The planning decisions are not subject to party politics, and the planning committee is independent. So therefore, comments should not be made about which parties are voting for which planning applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor.
Let's go to Councillor Charrington.
Councillor Charrington.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to ask the Cabinet Member for Environment, Sustainability and Climate Change, so I have that written down because I don't always remember all the words, Councillor Hilton. I noticed there's been an increase in the incidence of fly tipping. I just wondered what measures the council is currently using to combat that and littering. And I wondered if you felt there may be an underlying reason for this increase in fly tipping. Thank you.
Oh, I've done it again. I'd like to first of all pay tribute to the hard work of the teams in the neighbours in the town centre, picking up the litter and the fly tipping within the town. It is an increased problem. We had a press release earlier in the year, and it was calculated up to £1.43 million is spent picking up litter and fly tipping, calculated at about, well, in addition to 3 tonnes of dog waste we pick up from the bins, it's about 260 bags every day of litter and multiple instances of fly tipping. So what we do, we clear it up and we do it as efficiently as possible. And we also know both the community protection team and our neighbourhood patch teams, they know where the hotspots are. So they go and find it. We also, if it doesn't land on our if it's not on our land, use our leverage to try and pick it up from there and encourage landowners to pick it up, as we did in the places in Bewbush, and I had a recent example in Bullfield. We try and use the bulk waste collection service as well. And it's really important for the residents of the town, using their eyes and ears, reporting to Mike Crawley, to do something about it. It's all our responsibility, littering. But I do think there's one possible impact, and I don't know how it's measured, but I do wonder, having pre-booked appointments at our wonderful civic amenity site could be a deterrent, and that's one of the things I am particularly concerned about. And you know, the bulky wasting service is one thing, but you get a free charge for some things. But you know, free of charge, go down there. Responsible residents go down there. But I remember Councillor Russell, we actually saw a video of someone just plonking a sofa at a recycling tip. I wonder if they had a chance of picking up and going to the tip, it might have done it. So, you know, I do think it's an impact.
Thank you. Councillor Charlton, do you have a supplementary question?
I think Councillor Hilton has replied comprehensively and probably quite accurately too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had initially intended to direct this question to Councillor Irvine. However, considering what was said earlier, perhaps it might be more appropriate for Councillor Jones. It's unfortunately in relation to another planning committee meeting, and it was the one whereby permission was given for number 6 to 9 Ifield Road to change the HMO into a hostel and increase the number of occupants maximum from 36 to 68, I believe. During the debate, it was questioned, firstly, I think, the process at which potential residents are selected, and also whether this would be exclusive to Crawley residents. I think the only reason I'm bringing it to the council now is because at the time the response from officers was that it wasn't in relation to a planning matter at the time. So I just would like to reiterate, is this, were these places exclusive to Crawley residents?
Councillor Jones. Yeah. If you wish, you can follow up in writing. Okay, then please, yeah.
No one, I mean, it's, as was rightly said at that planning committee, I was there. It's the issue about who is accepted is not a planning matter. It is a policy matter. However, nobody goes into the hostel at 6 to 9 Ifield Road or the temporary accommodation at that address unless they qualify for temporary accommodation, and that means only people that are living in Crawley can get that. There is no one else, categorically. When people were saying that, you know, people were being drafted in from abroad or wherever else, it was completely untrue. It's not true that if we do not have a duty to house them, they do not go into those flats. I can't be clearer.
Councillor Jones, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, sorry, not a supplementary question, just thank you for the clarification on that. It was just more for avoidance of doubt and I think continuity following that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ashraf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to Councillor Hilton. I work near the Super Hub bus stop in Manor Royal, and I see for myself the difference it makes for bus travellers and travel in Crawley in general. Can you just explain what was the Crawley Borough Council's role in helping to make the super hub happen? Thank you.
I think this fallen to me again because people may not know we've got a statutory responsibility for bus stops. And in the next year or so, we'll be improving various bus stops through various means, through contracts and stuff. What I'd like to give credit to is actually it was a partnership. Crawley is a partnership between the Manuel Bid, West Sussex and Crawley Borough Council with grant funding from the Crawley Growth Programme and Crawley Towns Fund. And the important thing here is we made it happen through our facilitation for their officers of getting the grant funded. But I would pay tribute to everyone else. I should also mention on a personal note, one of the great things about this was that he's a local artist who did it, and he did it in memory of his, well, not memory, he's still alive, his father, and he used to work at Readyfonds. And I just want to say that partly because of Steve Sawyer's input, he emailed me to say what a wonderful experience to be able to design and contribute public artwork to my town. So it's good.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Ashraf? All right, thank you. Councillor Maguali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is going to Councillor Jones. Okay. I've received the leaflet regarding the potential establishment of the new town council. I understand this was produced and distributed rather hastily, and I am concerned to learn that councillors were not consulted during its preparation. It appears that even the governance committee were not given the opportunity to review the leaflet prior to its going to print. Could you please clarify whether this approach, proceeding without councillor input or committee oversight, is standard practice? Additionally, I would appreciate understanding the rationale behind the urgency of this communication. As a representative of the community, I believe transparency and collaboration are essential, particularly on matters that would significantly impact local governance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Councillor Magali for her question. Beautifully written question, may I say, Councillor Magali. But what I would say is we don't write leaflets by committee, and the decision to embark on this consultation was made at full council, and that was implemented. As far as I'm concerned, I think that the leaflet is fair, it's balanced, it sets out everything, it draws to residents' attention. As far as the timetable is concerned, I'm afraid we've got a fairly rigid timetable when it comes to things and how they have to come out and the deadlines that we've got in order to conclude the community governance review. It has to be concluded within a year. We want to give everyone a reasonable amount of consultation time in order to respond or to indeed become aware that this is being mooted. I just need to be clear, Madam Mayor. This council did not need to write a leaflet and put it out and deliver it to every home. That's not a requirement of the CGR. But we were so keen that that people could see this for themselves and have a chance to consider the merits of this for themselves, that we went and we did that. We went that extra mile. And I must admit, although it's ironic because we're going to get to the reserved items and we'll be discussing this all over again, I really do find it a little curious that that there is so much suspicion about this. I think we've been upfront about this from the very beginning. In fact, what we're trying to do here is reach a fair and equitable arrangement for all our residents based on the constraints that have been put upon us with the national changes. And I can't really say any more than that to her, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. As we have exceeded 30 minutes, so we won't have any councillors' question time, and we move on to the next item. I call upon the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ayling, to move receipt of the reports of the meeting as set out in agenda item 7 on page 29 and in the associated supplementary agenda.
I move that the reports of the Audit, Licensing, Governance and Planning Committees, Overall Scrutiny Commission and the Cabinet be received. Is that agreed? Thank you.
We have one item reserved for debate as detailed on page 19 of the order paper. We will now consider that item, which is from the Governance Committee held on 13th October 2025. Minute 4, Community Governance Review Crawley, from page 19 within the order paper. Councillor Lunnon, as the Chair of Governance Committee, you will have the final speaking right on this discussion. This item has been reserved by the Labour Group. Councillor Jones, I believe you are wishing to speak first on this item for debate. Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The Labour Group wanted to speak on this item because we felt there was an emphatic case for supporting the case for a town council here in Crawley, and we felt there were people who perhaps didn't understand why yet, and this might be a useful discussion to have. And I think that the previous debates on some of the items earlier in this meeting justifies that conclusion. Now, hopefully, the information being circulated in the case 4 that's set out will explain why. But these things aren't always easy to get across in a couple of comments on social media, but quite easy to misrepresent as well. A leaflet, as outlined through Councillor Magale's question, is now being circulated across all households in the borough because we want people to be aware and indicate whether they support this. An FAQ is also being provided online together with the survey so people can learn more, although hard copies of the survey will be available from the Town Hall for anyone that's digitally excluded. The simple fact remains that Crawley Borough Council is not going to be here after May 2028 or after April 2028. It will be gone. Having councillors on the council that replaces it isn't quite the same thing, just as having councillors on West Sussex County Council doesn't mean that there is the same focus on Crawley that we have here at the borough. There is also the added risk that any unitary and its resources get used up by the pressures on adult social care and EHCPs, and given local government financial pressures, meaning that there isn't anything ring-fenced for the local communities. And the only way that I can see personally that we can preserve many of the assets and the community services that local residents cherish in Crawley, or the only way to ensure that value can be added, is to have a separate town council. And I say this in all good faith. This could be the only way to safeguard these unique facilities that are here because of the way that the new town was built. And a town like Crawley needs that identity. I don't think for a moment that it should be atomised. A town council could do things such as supplement the cleaning and grass cutting and environmental improvements that a unitary would do. And looking right across Sussex, if we don't have that tier of local government and we lose the borough, we would be one of the only places in Sussex and Surrey without a parish council. And all the while, we've been upfront as a leadership. We are supporting a town council because it's the right thing to do. Now, there's been some mixed messaging from the Conservative group. 1 minute they're talking about costs. The next is, it's why can't we have separate parishes within Crawley? The answer is that this is what the Community Governance Review is there to look into. But either it is a good idea or it isn't. A town council would be one of the best things to ensure community engagement. It is well established that people look very locally for their local government, and relationships that are built at parish level are stronger than at county or unitary level. In fact, I'm sure there's been academic research on this that backs this up. There would be no guarantee that a unitary council will be based anywhere near Crawley. That's a decision for the future council. And I think it would be very sad if it were not to go ahead, but we will wait the end of the consultation process. And I think it's important to try and set some of the records straight, though. A town council would be a good use of money if it supports and safeguards local assets that people want, which it would. We won't create a town council that will require large precepts to run. The intention, it will have its own income base independent from taxation. Now, these estimates of costs of a town council precept I've heard and read from some of the Conservative group at meetings and in the newspaper are absolute bunkum. It's sort of, they've just been plucked out of the air to scare people off the idea, or finding the most extreme example in the country and implying it's the norm just by reference to it. Now, I can only speculate why that would be the case, but I am worried it's more about partisan political expediency than any genuine concern. We're trying to do the right thing here for the people of Crawley. It would be nice for a change if that wasn't tried to be exploited. The estimate they were giving out to the public, I saw somewhere, is roughly 9 times larger than the rate introduced by councils after the loss of districts in Northamptonshire. But it all comes down to what local voters want. And with the right asset base, as I've said previously, we wouldn't be setting up a town council to fail financially. There's no minimum income needed from the local council tax. Look at all the other parishes in Sussex. Do they charge this exorbitant amount some of the Conservatives have claimed will happen? No, they don't. And I think people need to treat this attempt to sort of talk down a town council with the contempt it deserves, if that's what it is. I say let's get behind this and give our town a future, which the council that can be focused on the town and the town alone. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's not lose our mayor either.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Sumerlins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yesterday, I had the pleasure and the privilege of attending an ambassadors meeting at Tilgate in one of the huts. It was a good turnout. About 30 different representatives from organisations turned up to talk to us about, talk to each other and to us about different issues they had. Now, our ambassadors, each one of those represents an organisation in this town, a voluntary organisation. At the moment, we have 190 organisations signed up, and there are more organisations in the wings waiting to sign up. So we're talking about over 200 voluntary organisations that operate within this town and offer services to every level of our society and support our residents. We have national organisations such as Age UK, who are big, well-known charities that spread over the whole country and happen to also operate here in a smaller way. We also have organisations that represent work in the whole of West Sussex, such as 10 Little Toes, our fabulous baby bank, who support and help young families who are in absolute dire need all over West Sussex. And then we have unique organisations that are unique to Crawley, only exist in Crawley and nowhere else. Some of them are very small, like our Sathi group, which is a group of elderly Indian ladies who get together to socialise and work out problems that they have and support one another, and some of them are much larger. Now, at the moment, Crawley support all these organisations, there are over 200 organisations, and we support them in so many different ways. Some of them we give grants to and make sure they get awards. Some of them are using and leasing and renting our accommodation within Crawley's boundaries. Some of them, that's big groups and small groups using large areas of the town and smaller ones, and some just renting small rooms. And they also have the service of our fantastic Crawley Community Development Team, where they can go for guidance, advice, and signposting to all the different places they need to go to help support them in their fundraising efforts and in the work that they do all over the town. Now, yesterday at the meeting, they'd only actually come together to talk about funding and how they can work together to get more volunteers on board. But what came up was LGR. Now, if you run a small charity of any kind at all, you are so busy, you don't always have time to realise what's coming on the radar. So talking about LGR yesterday was really eye-opening, and so many of those organisations were already expressing alarm, concern as to what's going to be happening to them in the next couple of years. Who is going to be there for them? Well, they're going to be local people with the knowledge, the expertise, and the experience they required to carry them on with their support. Understanding of the unique offer and the priorities that we have in Crawley. A town council, if we have one, could protect, nurture and support and represent all these fantastic organisations and all the thousands, and I mean it is thousands, of volunteers that we have in Crawley. You, on the opposite side of this chamber, live, work and spend your leisure time in Crawley. You have benefited from the fantastic facilities that we have in Crawley. Therefore, it really grieves me that you are already, I mean, we had the comment, oh, a town council, I didn't know that was going to be there. But as far as I'm aware, your leader and so many of you already have been very active on social media and in the newspapers, carping, making false statements, scaremongering, giving out very strange statistics that nobody understands or realises at all. What is your agenda? Are you here to support the people who put you in place, the town you live in? Yes, I know you're looking at the time. You always do, Duncan Crowe. You do it every time I speak. I must be very boring. You know, you are here as democratically local people, and that is what we need. Democracy locally. We don't know what a town council could look like in the future, what the structure could be, what we'll be responsible for. But my God, it's something we really do need to look for. We are going to be swallowed up, if we're not very careful, by a much, much bigger area who do not have the history and what we have here. We had a fantastic new town here. We produced a wonderful place for people to live. Let's go forward and have a town council that protects that legacy and moves us on into the future.
Well done. Councillor Burgess.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins, for that passionate finger-pointing opportunity to speak to us. However, I have to say that my mind's not made up yet, personally. I'm looking at both ends and both arguments all the way around, and that's what we should be doing. And I think I have to go back to this idea that if you want us or me to come along with your ideas, maybe you should talk to us more rather than going behind our back and doing things without us helping and supporting you. On this side, we would support you more, and I would, if we were taken into more, into your side more. For example, we go back to the leaflet, and my colleague behind me said, wouldn't it be nice if we'd have shared the ideas? And this idea of, oh, you hadn't got time, you had time to talk in your group, and we have something called electronic stuff here. We could send out ideas and we could all come back. So this idea that we sit here and object to you, no, we are all here for the same reason, we're all here for the same person. And if I find, when I look at things, that the town council is a good way forward, I will probably support it, but I don't know yet, because I'm looking at all the sides and all the arguments and everything else. And if you were to take this with you and share more with us, rather than making ideas behind our back, we might support you more. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kiran Khan.
Yes, I want to speak on this town council, and I want to give a very honest opinion on it. I know LGR has been a very interesting topic of debate. It's been a very controversial topic of debate, and when this first came about, I realised it was my own government doing this, but I was totally against it, and I'm still against it now. I think it's important for Crawley to have local democracy, and this is the best way to safeguard it after the unitary position, after the unitary council takes place. And I want Crawley to continue to have a council that will support local services, that will support local charities, and that will continue to speak up for the people of Crawley after this council has come to an end. And I feel that this is the best way to safeguard this. But I also want to say I am very proud about how this administration has actually handled LGR. We came to the best possible conclusion that we possibly could have. The plan that we put forward, the BT plan, was supported by the public and was supported by other authorities in West Sussex, and I still believe it is the best possible deal that we could have got. And from that, a town council for Crawley to support the people of Crawley and to speak up for the people of Crawley and to continue to be there for the people of Crawley in conjunction with a new youth area council is the best possible option, because we do need something here. And this council over my lifetime has worked extremely hard to protect our services, to fund our services, to house people, to make life better for the people of Crawley. And I am extremely sad that this borough council will be coming to an end. And I feel that transitioning to a town council will then still have political representation and will still have representation for the people of Crawley. And it is the best way to move on from this borough, and it will continue to be there. So, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Chowton.
Sorry, could you? Sorry. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mayor. I think actually Councillor Jones has covered much territory, and I think made a very strong case for. In fact, all of the speakers so far, on our side at least, have made a strong case. It's good to hear that at least some members opposite, provided they aren't whipped into a decision, I guess, keep an open mind about a town council. It seems to me that there seems to be a tactic of suggesting that we're doing this because we want to keep power in Crawley. That's our only motivation for introducing this, the whole idea of a town council, forgetting the fact that actually in West Sussex we're one of about 4 local authorities, local district councils that do not have a town council as well. There are 156 of these things in West Sussex. We are unusual in not having one. Clearly, all those other councils, all those other areas feel that it's very worthwhile having very local say on very local services. And we have things to protect in this town. And I say protect, I use the term protect very advisedly, because we have one of the things that exercises us is a deep-seated worry that this unitary council, particularly if it's the single unitary that the party opposite seemed at the last debate, seemed very enthusiastic to espouse, comes into being. I hope to high heaven, I'm not religious, but I get on my knees and pray that we don't have a single unitary that we have, as we have that the opposition propose, in the form of West Sussex County Council. I think it's the dread of something like that, which exercises our minds very much on this side of the room. For all the issues, the remoteness, the scraping away of money away from Crawley and towards Chichester, all of those things we can see repeating themselves under a unitary, which is why we see this as not only a means to introduce, to ensure that there's local democracy remains in Crawley, but also that we resist the powers of a unitary, pulling all of that, or a distant and remote unitary, pulling those powers away from our area. We have, and in terms of, well, isn't that all about Labour gaining power? Well, no, because there is no guarantee that a town council is going to be a Labour-run town council. Indeed, if you look at the statistics, at least 50% of parish councils are run by independents in a variety of different bits. It tend to be more in larger towns, more supported by parties. But in this day and age, who knows who might run a town council? And we can only hope that the wisdom of Crawley people put people in charge who genuinely care about the facilities and about Crawley and what gets managed. And we're talking about things which are important, as Councillor Mullins referred to, not just council grants. There are community centres, there are allotments, there are parks. All of these things need to be taken care of and guarded. And I'm not convinced, and I don't think if any of us here are convinced, that a unitary authority, no matter what shape, is going to be to look as kindly and deal with as gently and delicately, with, as if that's the right word, is it going to be dealing with as sensitively as would a local authority run by local people. Thank you.
As the meeting has not been completed within the 2.5 hours, I will put it to a vote whether the council wishes to continue for a further 30 minutes. Can I have a show of hands of all those in favour of extending? Right?
That's the majority.
That's the majority, so we'll carry on. Councillor Chris Mullins.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I feel a bit despaired, actually, and a bit angry and a bit like fighting. I mean, this whole proposal to end Crawley, as we know it, has left me sad and angry in a way. And I just thought, well, for once, maybe the Conservatives on the other side would care more about Crawley than they do about the rest of Sussex and Chichester. But it's quite obvious, and it's been quite obvious right from the first discussions that we had, that they care much more about what happens in Sussex than they do about what happens in Crawley. And I'm quite disappointed in you all for that, because I thought this was an opportunity for us to be united in defending our town, and that we could have gone forward together saying, look, you know, we're not happy with what's happening, and it's a Labour government that's doing it. You had an opportunity to say that as well. It would have been opportunities for you to take the high ground and to say it's important for us to defend Crawley, and you're not doing that. Right from the beginning, I remember what you said. You want the big, large unitary with West Sussex County Council. Do you know how many people that is? That is 790,000 people. That's how big that is. That is massive. And if you think with the handful of councillors that would come down from Crawley to sit on that unitary, that they'd have any sway or power in that scenario, you've got to be dreaming. It just won't exist. And that council at that size would wipe the floor with anything that we wanted up here. And I hope to God that that is not a proposal that comes forward in March to say that we're going down that road, because I think that would be the very, very worst scenario. What we've opted for, I think it was B2 with Horsham, Mid Sussex and Crawley, gives us some option of equality within that three-town, well, I suppose there's two in Mid Sussex, system. So, you know, we could work, we'll have to work in that if that's what happens. And so I'm sort of hoping that's what comes forward. But I would still at this late stage appeal to you, think more about Crawley. You know, I mean, there's going to be ample opportunity for people to run for that unitary if they're thinking of their council careers somewhere else. But nothing's guaranteed. I'm terrified that Reform will walk all over the Tory seats, to be honest with you, because as much as I've argued with you for so many years, I prefer you to what would come in place of you. Better the devil you know, they say, don't they? And you are devils, but you might be better devils than them. Brenda, I keep listening to you every time you try to sit on the fence, but you always end up voting with your colleagues. I've heard it all before. We'll see what you do this time. I'd be surprised if you don't vote with your colleagues. But I just think it's quite incredible that you have that sort of limited concept as a group. And I think that's a shame. Because what we could build here is some sort of protection for our town, to argue for our facilities. The things that we got in Crawley, like K2, like Tilgate Park, I know you tried to privatise Tilgate Park once, but I don't think you'd try that one again. And I know you tried to privatise the council housing, but I don't think you'd try that one again. But these are things that are important to our town. The townspeople will support us in having a town council. I'm absolutely convinced of that, because they'll see the sense and the logic in having representation that means something. As we go around the town now and we get county problems cropping up, people come to us as local councillors. They do not even get the concept of the county council as it is now a lot of the time. And we have to say, look, that's a highways issue and you need to... What, my run out?
You've got 20 seconds.
I think you give me a quicker clock than the rest. You do. I get cheated of time all the time. Anyway, listen, I'm going to finish then and say this. Crawley, I would claim, is the most successful of the new town concepts that were built after the war. We've constantly had the lowest unemployment and we've had the best...
Time out. Councillor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The old cliche, I wasn't planning to speak, and I was not. What we've seen this evening reinforces my view that this town and this council needs better leadership. We have seen Labour member after Labour member speak on a resolved item. There is no vote. Members opposite talk about a vote. There is no vote on this. It's a resolved item. And we've seen more Labour members speaking on this resolved item than on any of the recommendations of the important business that we've actually had this evening. That is very telling in itself. But we have had some misrepresentation. So Councillor Mullins, who's just spoken, Chris Mullins, said, well, why can't we move forward together? Well, do you know what? That might have been quite nice. But the first we heard about a town council was when the council papers were published, and there's a motion in there from Councillor Jones and I think Councillor Nawaz, who was seconding it. We knew nothing about it. You know, had Councillor Jones approached me and said, look, we'd like to do this. Can we talk to you about it? We'd like to get your support. We would have engaged with him. And I've said before, we are not against a town council. We would like to be convinced of the merits of it. And what I've heard is just attacks on this group and misrepresentations of what this group stands for. We always put Crawley first. Crawley is a part of West Sussex, part of Sussex, but we put Crawley first. We have never not done so. And Councillor Chariton mentioned money being sort of siphoned away from Crawley and squirreled towards Chichester. I'm sorry, that's just absurd nonsense. Crawley has a lot of money from the County Council for various matters, but actually I'm becoming slightly guilty of what I've actually heard from members opposite, in that this is resolved item on the Town Council, and yet we've heard a lot about unitarisation and the unitary authority, and quite frankly, it's this Labour government that's brought that in. This is a problem of your party's making, a government that you all campaigned for at the general election. So this is your mess. You're trying to make the best of it as you see it. And I have no problem with a community governance review looking at the options. And I'm actually pleased it does have in there what we asked for when it was a motion to full council around potential parish options. I genuinely have not made up my mind as to whether we could have one town council be best strategically for Crawley. It would be very big if we were just one unitary, or if actually smaller parishes that are more local would be better for our neighbourhoods. Let's see what the people of Crawley said. But we had the corporate plan item earlier where the minds were made up. You know, I accept it's your view that you would like to have a town council. That's fine. But to put it in the corporate plan and then be forced very begrudgingly to accept our amendment, which I do welcome the fact that you have accepted it, that we're subject to the findings of the review. But I think for what Councillor Chris Mullins was saying, you know, you will support it. There are signs of a dictatorial attitude towards the people of Crawley. Let the people have their say. Ideally, we would like the people of Crawley to have a referendum following the community government's review before the setting up of any town or parish councils. That's what we would like. But one or two of you referenced my newspaper column. And in that, if you read it carefully, I say, please do give your view, whatever that may be. We want to hear views from every side. Let's see what people of Crawley have got to say. And I will use that to help inform our view. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would say thank you as well to other colleagues, all colleagues in the Chamber, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I did realise, of course, I'd make a few notes before coming to speak at the Chamber, and going to a reference from Councillor Crowe. I literally have no intention of mentioning parties. For me, at one level, that's utterly irrelevant. When it comes to a town council, none of us know who would be on it anyway. So we come back to what are the basic principles and what are the basic reasons why we might want a town council. And some of the things have been touched on before, and I aim to be quick and go nowhere near the 5 minutes. I mean, within West Sussex, and I think for me personally, this is utterly critical. Within West Sussex, Crawley is totally unique. It is very, very different to any other area in West Sussex. And I'll just run through some of those. It never hurts to remind ourselves. If you look at the wonderful ethnic diversity of this town, it's different to what you see anywhere else. And it's different in this chamber, and it's wonderful. What goes hand in hand with that is the vibrant religious diversity that you do not see elsewhere, or you see to a lesser extent. You can look at the age profile, and the age profile in Crawley is very, very different to other towns and to other parts of West Sussex. And we see that, myself and Councillor Hilton see that, we see that in growing parts of Crawley, such as Forge Wood, where you have the young families moving in. Again, it's very, very different to other parts of West Sussex. It's got a much more urban nature, although I do believe, and will say this, it's been planned wonderfully to have the trees and the open spaces, but it is far more urban than all the other places in West Sussex. And that brings its own challenges, which again are unique to Crawley compared to West Sussex. And it also, it is an urban area, and we have the housing emergency, which again hits so many of our young families, and that again is critical. Whatever unitary we go into, whatever one we go into, we will be completely distinct to the rest of that unitary, whether it's the largest version that we've talked about here, or whether it's a smaller version. We will be very different. And my greatest fear here is that the needs and the interests of Crawley will become so diluted as to not be properly looked after. And I'm making no party point on that. I'm just worried that what we need, what our residents need, will not be heard. Now, a new town council is unlikely to be able to meet all those needs. It's a fundamentally different body. However, it can be a voice, and a loud voice for Crawley, and an advocate for our unique community and communities and residents, and the various groups that we have in here that have been touched on by Councillor Mullins. Groups as diverse as those, such as Open House and all the charitable groups, be they the diverse faith groups, and the hope that we could hold and continue to work with those faith groups and work together. And the wonderful work we do in Crawley, and as someone, I won't say as a visitor, but someone who's been nowhere near as long as you guys, to see the wonderful work that is done across the town for the armed forces and the veterans. And my fear would that would be lost without a unified voice. And there are options, and we've heard some of those options, and those might involve, there is the possibility of the smaller parishes, but I, again, really passionately feel that the voice of Crawley should not be atomised. Because ultimately, Crawley and its residents will most likely benefit from a single town voice to look after all of its residents and all its communities and all the people that live here. Thank you, members.
Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, however, the new local government reorganisation pans out, it's pretty clear that regardless of what unitary authorities are set up, you have to have something between those unitaries and the kind of local representation at the Crawley level or at the Worthing level. Now, we used to have county local committees. It might well be the case that in addition to what we're discussing, this evening, there's a case, and I'm using these words off the top of my head, the creation of some form of unitary local committee. There certainly needs to be service delivery hubs between the centre of a unitary local authority and the people those services are being delivered for. And I think it's a mistake for Councillor Chris Mullins to make a comment that some members here only care about Sussex or West Sussex, because you cannot divorce the services delivered at that level from the economic and social well-being of Crawley. I mean, for example, if you consider adult social services currently delivered by the County Council and children's social services, those services, they're people-centred and they affect a good number of people in Crawley. And so the viability, the sustainability, the effectiveness of those services, which we try and promote at county level, are fundamental to the needs of Crawley people simultaneously. You cannot divorce one from the other. And I think it's a little bit negative as well when we talk about our great assets like K2 Crawley, like the Horth, like Tilgate Park, to have as a starting point that they're under threat. I'd rather be a bit more positive about it and make common cause with you that we would seek to retain and enhance those assets and modernise them over time as appropriate. That nothing stands still, but certainly no one here wants to lose those particular assets. And when you say it would have been good if you could have brought us with you, it would have been quite helpful to have let us have sight of your intentions before they were just sprung upon us in committee. I mean, that's the way to bring people with you. I mean, I think, I'm sure Councillor Crone and Councillor Jones, there's opportunities, meetings with the Chief Executive and probably with others, to have achieved that kind of objective. And I agree with Councillor Russell and others that there are many unique features within Crawley, and it's going to be clearly the duty of people elected to the unitary authority of whatever political colour to be mindful of those unique features, those differences, and to articulate them properly and to properly represent Crawley and the unitary authority. And I go beyond that, of course. It's also in terms of the mayoral strategic combined county authority. There's lots of different language flying around. It's not very helpful. But that we need to be represented properly at that level as well. And I, too, I'd say I'm pretty much neutral on I want to hear what the public think as well in terms of Crawley's representation, whether it be a town council or some variant upon that. And so that's really why I am. Fundamentally, you can and we do believe in Crawley while simultaneously believing in West Sussex and all it has to offer, bearing in mind that a lot of the income from the new unitary, as well as coming from Crawley, will come from other parts of West Sussex. So we'd better be interested in other parts of West Sussex to ensure there's enough finance to run those services in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As someone said earlier, again, I wasn't intending to speak, but I think I was moved by Councillor Russell, what you said. Despite my earlier comments regarding party politics, I think it's important, that we're all elected members here, regardless of what party we belong to. I think it's important that, we work together. As you said, we've got a huge opportunity here. I think we should be doing our part to, work together to try and do the best for people of Crawley. I think ending on a positive is important. I think some maybe regrettable things have been said, but I think we should just keep our heads held high as representatives and do our best to work for people of Crawley. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Imitiaz Khan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I once again didn't have a planned speech, moved by Councillor Russell and the other side of what you've been saying. Every one of us who's sitting here on this side and that side have Crawley's interest at heart. I truly believe that, party politics aside, without labouring the fact, obviously it is a Labour government that's come up with this. They have the reasons for doing so. They've obviously researched it, looked into it, and tried to bring the costs down and the bureaucracy down in doing this. However, representing Crawley, we do need to look at the interests for the Crawley residents. This leaflet, although I understand is a starting point, it gets this conversation going. What people will want to know are the pros and the cons of doing this, the cost associated with that, which we don't know at the moment. Obviously, we need to know that as well, to give people an informed decision of what they're actually going to be getting with this town council. With regards to the democracy of the whole unitary council, yes, I do understand that Crawley may have a watered down voice, but that is also up to Crawley residents and us to make sure that our voice is heard, because we're having a unitary council whether we like it or not. So regardless of this, whether it happens or doesn't happen, and I can assure you from this side, there is no firm decision been made. And just my own perceptions, I'm a new councillor, it would help if we could work more together with things like this, because this can unify us, because we all care about Crawley and we all care about the work that's been done. I've been in Crawley from a young age. I went to Thomas Bennett, went to Crawley College. I'm a Crawley boy from through and through, worked at Gatwick Airport. So we all care about Crawley. We haven't made a decision on this side, whether this is a good idea or not. It would have been nice to have been involved in conversations early on that this is something we might want to do. But all I'd want to do is look at what are the pros of this, what are the cons of this, what are the financial costs of this, is it in the interest of Crawley residents? If this does go through, so be it. If it doesn't, then we do need to make sure that our voice is heard in the unitary council, because that's going to happen, whether we like it or not. So we need to make sure that we're still vocal at that level so that Crawley doesn't suffer with this movement going forward. And that's all I'd like to say on it. Thank you.
Thank you. As there is no further speakers, Councillor Lannan.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you all members for discussing this item, and especially thank you to all those who didn't plan to speak but then were moved by some of the contributions to speak otherwise. I'll come back to some of the points raised in discussion near the end, but I just want to give my own thoughts first. I mean, whilst it might be apparent to us as councillors and staff, we need to make no mistake about it. We, Crawley Council, are now effectively in harm's way. We are coming to an end. I think the consultation on the town council will actually help residents stay up to date with local government reorganisation, because they've not been following it. This might be the first news that they get through their letterbox that Crawley Council is coming to an end. So I think that whilst it might not have been a primary intention of it, a side benefit of this consultation will be that it's coming to residents that we will be coming to an end. Now, I think the creation of a town-wide town council is a tremendous opportunity for the town. I'd like to say why. Currently, the Borough Council and indeed the County Council have, as we've heard from the budget strategy, extremely stretched council finances due to the spending requirements of some statutory services, such as temporary housing with CBC and adult social care at West Sussex County Council. What that means at the moment is that if any political party promised a significant investment in a certain area within Crawley, for Crawley Borough Council or for the West Sussex County Council, and the residents support that at the ballot box, as soon as they got into power, they probably won't be able to deliver it because of the financial drags on the council already. And we're seeing that already in Kent, I think it's fair to say, where promises were made to residents that they'd be able to cut council tax and deliver everything they could already, and actually the reality is very different from that. Now, a parish council will not be so encumbered. It won't have any statutory services to deliver. It will be much more nimble and able to respond more directly to residents' concerns. If residents wish a significant investment in parks, for example, then the town council will be able to directly respond to that. And if residents want us cutting council tax as well, the town council will be able to deliver that. There's nothing it has to deliver. It will just deliver directly to what the residents wish. And that leads me on to some of the concerns that have been expressed by the Leader of the Opposition's column about inevitable tax rises and sometimes quite alarming ones if you're to believe what he's written. But I think you forget that a town council is ultimately answerable to the public. So if a town council was in power and then put up council tax rates 50% or something remarkable. I think that, you know, we've seen in Crawley, we do change power. The balance of power in this town does change between the parties, and I think you'd see them elected out quite quickly. So I don't think that's a legitimate concern that we'd see in the town if we did have a town council. And, you know, as has been mentioned elsewhere, everywhere else in West Sussex that doesn't have a direct borough council such as Worthing has a town council or parish council already. And if it's good enough for all the other areas in Sussex and West Sussex, why wouldn't it be good enough for Crawley? And I think that's really a fundamental question that there isn't a good answer to. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm supporting it. We need to give Crawley residents a forum for decisions and discussions to take place, such as this discussion tonight. We've all been discussing this town council tonight, and, you know, what better place to discuss and decide the future of Crawley than in a council for Crawley. Now, obviously, until we are dissolved, this would have been the best forum for it, but we're going forward. We know Crawley Borough Council as it exists won't exist, so I think we need to replace it with something. I also find it slightly frustrating, I have to say, and this is slightly party political, to be told that we're going to ignore the consultation responses. There was one party that looked at the local government review consultation responses and saw 20% of people wanted a county-wide unitary, and they were the ones who then said, yes, that's what the public wants. So I find it slightly unfair to accuse us of not listening to the public. Well, we'll agree to disagree. Now, on to the leaflet. I just want to make clear to specifically Councillor Burgess beforehand, who raised the point. Very valid point, but it wasn't shared with the Labour members before any of the Conservative members saw it either. All the members, apart from, I think, Councillor Jones and maybe myself, saw it as when it was delivered after the Governance Committee. So there wasn't a wide sharing of this leaflet with everybody. And also, as anybody who's designed leaflets for political communications will know, designing by committee is not a very effective way of designing a political leaflet. So, so that wasn't done. Yeah.
30 seconds remaining.
Either way, I'm delighted that the Governance Committee has prompted such wide-ranging debate, and I would remind all members that they can attend governance in person and discuss these issues at the next Governance Committee when CGR is next discussed, and maybe we can save ourselves time at the end of the next full council by not discussing it all again there. Thank you very much.
There are no further supplementary items of business. I declare the meeting of the Council now closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support for the past 1.5 years.
Yeah, no problem. It's gone well.
Yeah.
We've got another rest of the year to go.
Yes, yeah.